And then just...
Red rum! Red rum! Red rum! Woo! Red rum!
So, welcome to my podcast.
Hello, it's me.
It's you.
It's me, the famed cult classic Major Grunge. That's my joke lately. I'm not famed or a cult classic, but I think it's a fun meme.
I think it's a fun meme too.
I like creating this false persona and then peddling it on the airwaves.
You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Eventually, one day you'll be a cult leader, and then they'll listen back to this podcast and be like, "This is where it started."
Oh, I can only hope. I can only hope.
Would you be more like a Charles Manson, or?
I think I'd be like a reasonable, like I look at the Branch Davidians with David Koresh, and I don't really like a lot of his policies, and I don't really care for the religion thing, but like the way he kind of ran his business, where he was like, he would have the jam sessions with all the people, and he was more or less like, he didn't do anything like super fucked up to them, but like it was definitely kind of a cult. And then he had the weird thing where like he had to marry all the wives. I'm not into that, but as far as like his demeanor, maybe more of a David Koresh thing.
Nice. I mean, like, one wife is enough, right?
Yeah.
I'm not even like about marriage. So.
Me neither. I'm very like not super into romance, so I don't know. I don't even think that would be. I know all these cult leaders like Jared Leto want to have a billion wives, and that's not for me.
I'm like, if that's your thing, that's fine. But it feels like a lot of cults are like, let's have a million wives.
Yeah. It's an interesting phenomenon. I think it's like a conqueror thing. Like these ancient conquerors, like I don't know, Alexander the Great and Cyrus. They were all big on to taking many wives, and Genghis Khan, you know. I think it's this dominion idea that so many, first of all, I think men in general take this on, like the subjugation of women, or like, I guess to an extent, just having control over women to a lot of men gives them some weird sense of validation. I think that this whole like many wives thing is a manifestation of that.
Look how many women love me. Look how great I am.
I think that's what I see it as. That's what I think they're trying to replicate these historical conquerors because they see themselves as like almost gods.
But it's like you can just do that without being in a cult or having a cult. It's called
absolutely.
polyamory, and heaps of people do it, and it's totally fine.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And there's no power structures.
There's ethical polyamory that's totally cool. You don't have to be like a weird mean guy about it.
Did you say meme guy or mean guy?
Oh, mean guy, just a mean dude. Yeah.
I love that. So mean.
Yeah, you're so mean. Yeah. I alternate between saying very harsh things and very like childishly like kind of harmless things, you know.
I think like I back in like the first episode of my podcast, I said something about like, oh my god, your neck is so wet, and like talking about one of the characters in the movie, and I was like, that's probably like the most mean thing I'll ever say. Like that's as far as I go with insults. Like it's really immature, and I was like, at 30 I'm allowed to do this again, right?
It's almost more fun that way, I would argue. Throwing in something that isn't insulting at all. Sometimes instead of saying what the fuck, I'll say what the Fortnite.
Yeah,
and
I say what the heck.
Yeah, I like heck a lot. Yeah, there's a power to it.
And I say holy moly a lot.
It catches people off guard. I say golly, gosh, shucks, you know, it's good. It's good stuff.
I'll always be like, holy moly, that is so cool. And people are like, what? What? Who are you? Because normally I'm like that.
It's a very beautiful phenomenon.
I'm like that weird, sarcastic person that like saying holy moly. I'm definitely saying it ironically, not...
Oh yeah, same here. But well, do you ever question yourself? You're like, maybe this started as ironic, but is it even ironic anymore, or is this just me?
I don't know. I don't think so. I do say holy moly a lot, so I feel like I'm now using it.
That's how I feel too. I no longer even know what is ironic and isn't. I have no idea, and I don't even know if I even care to like dig deep and reflect on it, because at the end of the day, it just is what it is.
Well, like when I said in Discord yesterday that I'm now using WAP.
Yes. People got so up in arms. I still didn't even listen to the song, but I saw.
I don't even know who sings
I think it's
the song.
Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion. Yeah.
Oh. Oh, okay. See, I just heard it on last podcast on
Oh.
the left, and now I'm just saying it about whatever.
I see. Well, it cracked me up because Ben Shapiro publicly embarrassed himself over it, and that was just hilarious to me.
He did confirm that he has never ever caused his wife to enjoy herself
Yeah, that's
sexually.
exactly what he said, and it was so just hilarious and pathetic because he was just so convinced. He's like, it's not possible. It's not possible. And everyone was like, Ben, it is. It's like, you've never experienced it,
It's
but
a
your
thing.
wife probably
You've never
wishes
done it.
maybe you had experienced it. And so,
Your wife
Yeah.
wants a wax.
yes. So basically, Ben Shapiro publicly is like, I'm incapable of pleasing my wife. And that's kind of what went down. And it was just really sad and pathetic. And also hilarious because it's Ben Shapiro. I'm like, fuck Ben Shapiro. So, you know. That's what it was, and because
Fuck
of that,
that
I've
guy.
enjoyed. Maybe the song's great. I don't know. I should probably just listen to it to know. But
I don't know if I it's not my style.
Same
of
here.
music, but I feel like if I'm gonna keep using
Yeah.
the word, maybe I should have
right, yeah,
context.
exactly.
A little bit more education.
More than anything
you know?
else, what I enjoy about this song is that just all this buzz that's happened around it, and all of the like Republican
Yeah.
senators that have been tweeting about how much they hate it in the U.S. And it just cracks me up. It just cracks me up. It's all it takes in the U.S. to make
It's
them
because
mad.
they have never
yeah.
done it.
All it takes to make a Republican senator in the U.S. mad apparently is talking about sex openly, and they're just like, ah, and yeah, yuck. Yeah.
Sex is for procreation only.
Yeah, I can't believe people still believe that.
No women is allowed to have
There's
a
a
wax.
Satanist protester I really love in the U.S., and she used to be a member of the Temple of Satan, and then they had to remove her because she was advocating for violence against Donald Trump, and they're like anti-violent, but they're still friends with her. Her name's Jex Blackmore, and I love. She's amazing. She's one of my favorite people ever, and she has been starting this whole movement lately. It's called Sex Militant, and the whole like T-shirt campaign for it says "I fuck to come, not to conceive," and I just really like that.
Oh, that is
Yeah.
really cool because I'm a massive sex
Oh, yeah.
positivist, and it's kind of like because I think for so long I didn't want children, so like I never saw like any sexual activity as only it's only for having kids. Like I've never thought that way. And so, like, seeing people who are like, oh, yuck, oh, don't talk about sex. I'm like, why are you so weird about it?
Isn't it? Do you ever like take a kind of a step back and you look at how a lot of the mainstreamers around you are? I've been using that term since watching True Blood, but the mainstreamers,
I call them
normies,
normies.
yeah, normies, mainstreamers, about just like how common some of these lines of thought are. Like, because I surround myself with all the people
Yeah.
I really like, and I forget that there's still just tons of people out there that are, they like, oh, smoking marijuana is a sin and you're going to hell for it forever. And that's not uncommon in the U.S.
That's not even in the Bible.
No, yeah, it's not. It's-
the Bible doesn't say anything about drug
No,
use. at all.
they just use the
Like-
Bible however they want. You know what I mean? They'll. It's
so
confirmation
weird.
bias
Like,
central.
There's nothing in the doctrine that says if you smoke weed, you're going to hell.
What's the devil's lettuce though?
It's so weird. Devil's lettuce. I mean, the devil gets to do all the fun shit. Like, as if you wouldn't be like I am very like non-religious.
Oh, me
at the
too,
moment.
me too.
Like a lot of Satanist leanings and like very just agnostic, borderline atheist beliefs. Because like I'm one of those people you're gonna laugh at me when I say this. I kind of just believe all the gods.
No,
exist
I
up
actually
there.
fully am on the same wave. I don't think there's any reason why they couldn't all exist.
And that's the thing. Like, why can't they just all get
Or
along?
even they have their own little corners of whatever a theory. Like, I mean, if they're gods, like they could just have their own little god realm that they do their god thing in, and then there's another god that does their other god. Like Valhalla's over here and Heaven's over here, and like they don't. Yeah.
But I just don't have any what's the word, allegiance to anything really. Like I went through a period where my family were non-religious, and then we were Latter-day Saints, and then I was born again Christian, and now I'm back to like having no
A
religious,
godless
like-
heathen. That's what I say. That's how I describe myself.
I just don't-
Yeah.
I have other things to care about right now than
The
worrying
Sky
about what
Dad.
God thinks about me. And I mean, if he thinks I'm going to hell, that's fine. But I don't
Yeah,
believe in hell,
same.
so I'm not going there.
I'm a
So
member of the
whatever.
Temple of Satan. Yeah, yeah. Well, the Temple of Satan is non-theistic, so it's very cool. It's a political organization in the U.S. That's all it is. And so, right as we speak, I'm drinking out of my Satanic Temple cup. You know, I love them to death. It's a crew I very much identify with. But yeah, I mean, I love the symbolism behind Satan and the, you know, kind of meaning behind, you know, being the sort of accuser, the outlier, the one who questions what is known. But yeah, I don't really buy any of the fucking Judeo-Christian mythos.
No, me neither. It's because, like, I think because my brain is so on the whole, well, if I can write a fictional story and write about like a zombie outbreak and this really kick-ass woman with like shotguns for arms comes along and saves the entire world, then some random can write a Bible. And like that's where like my thinking aligns, because I'm just like, it's so easy to just do it and say whatever you want.
Anyone could have wrote this, and especially if you look at how far back the Bible was written. You know what I mean? Like, how is anyone going to confirm anything back then?
And the amount of reiterations that there's also been, it's just
exactly like, retranslations, reiterations, biases being. It's just like how could you even trust this shit?
The original transcript in Aramaic, I'm not going to believe a fucking thing you say.
Same here. That's exactly how I feel. I mean, just even looking at I remember when I was still going to school for philosophy, studying a text of Aristotle, a very like simple entry of Aristotle where he discusses his ethical system, virtue ethics is what they call it, you know, now. And he talks about eudaimonia, which is a word that is translated by different philosophy professors all over the world slightly differently. And these slight variations in how they translate eudaimonia change the meaning of the text dramatically.
Yeah.
And that was sort of a epiphany moment where I said, well, if a slight variation of just one word in a text, a small text, changes the whole meaning of the text, the Bible, which has been retranslated 1 billion times under 1 billion different, you know,
into 1 billion different
authorities.
Languages.
Yeah. How would you even have close to the same document at the end of all that?
And it's not a universal document either, because there are so many different like translations and translation of meaning, not necessarily the language, but the meaning for different, like even just different denominations is different. And, you know, Catholicism versus like being a Methodist or a Lutheran or a Catholic or whatever, you know, like even that is all different for translation of meaning. And, you know, you're going to come across religions that are very like authoritarian.
I have someone at the door. Sorry, one moment.
Oh, you're right.
I don't know what that was about. It was, well, there was a delivery thing. There was a box of food and anyways, apologies.
What time is it?
It's 8:02 p.m.
Oh, okay, so it's not out of abnormal delivering times.
No. Well, I don't even know. Time is, I don't know. It's wild.
It doesn't matter. It's dark outside.
Yeah, I don't know. There's dark time, there's night, but I have blackout curtains, so it's all dark time mostly for me.
My bedroom has blackout. That's why I opened my curtains, because I was like, oh, it's really dark in my room.
I don't know. I love the dark, but also I know that if I sit in the dark for too long, I get a headache because my eyes are straining. But I like the dark. It's nice.
I don't mind it, but I also like sunshine. I'm a summer person, and I've said this a million times in Discord.
I hate summer. You know that about me, though. I hate it so much.
I just love... And everyone's complaining about dry heat, and I was like, take me there. Like, come and live in Australian humidity. Like, you will hate it.
I get that, though. That's why I hate summer so much, is because Florida is humidity central, and so summer in Florida is unbearable. You probably wouldn't. I mean, it has its charms, but it's like just it's very inhospitable. I remember when this old story of when you know America was being colonized. I think it was the Spanish who were in Florida first, and the Spanish had a couple of forts, but they generally regarded the whole region of Florida as fully inhospitable, and even named many of the regions after different circles of hell. Actually, the summer camp I worked at in my childhood.
Like in regards to Dante's Inferno, or
well, it was like one of the main region I remember, and this is a small little town called Wetumpka, where most of the economy was driven by meth.
Oh, nice.
And my summer camp I worked at was there. It was a really interesting summer camp, but it was, you know, it was a swamp. It was also just insanely hot. There were all kinds of dangerous, venomous things because it was out in the middle of like dense swamp, right? So there were no people around to kind of drive the animals out. So there was just a ton of wildlife, which means there was a ton of dangerous wildlife as well. You know, big packs of coyotes, of course, alligators everywhere, which honestly weren't much of a problem. You know, panthers, and then like snakes, venomous snakes.
Whoa. Panthers?
Yeah, Florida Panthers. They're not super common, but they're around. And of course,
it's so cool.
big cats are wicked dangerous.
Oh, I love the idea. I'm going to
I guess
Florida.
they were, and also maybe I'm thinking of the wrong thing. Wait, there's apparently an ice hockey team called the Florida Panthers too. No, there's actual real Florida Panther. I was like, did I use the wrong word? No, they're very real, and so they look more or less like a mountain lion, and they're just as dangerous. And there's not many of them. I think they actually might be endangered. But
we had a panther that was we had a panther. And there was like heaps of photos, and people were like, "There's a panther loose in the bush." I can't remember where it was, but everyone was losing their shit.
Well, they are pretty scary.
We never found it, so
they're absolutely. We were talking about apex predators earlier. The big cats, more or less universally, are just like huge top of the food chain creatures. You know, they absolutely will destroy humans. I think I'm so fascinated by the idea that like we think we have dominance over nature as human beings, but there are so many animals that will absolutely fuck us up in a heartbeat. Yeah, we don't stand a chance. Like, if you were out on a hike, you didn't have a weapon or anything, and you ran in toe-to-toe with any kind of big cat, you're done. History. Yeah. It is. It really is.
You did. That's so insane. Because, like, I listened to this podcast with, it's called The Murder Squad, and it's, like, the guy, can't even remember his name, Paul Holes, and he actually helped to arrest the Golden State Killer. So he was a part of that team. Yeah, and like the DNA project behind that and whatnot. And Billy Jensen, who's a crime writer. And like Paul Holes lives like out in Colorado somewhere, and he's like talking about hiking, and I'm just like, dude, there's like shit out there that's gonna like eat
Well, and we
you.
got, not to mention bears. Our bears are the real deal. Yeah, they're no joke, especially grizzlies. Black bears are not so bad, but grizzlies are wicked dangerous and very aggressive.
I mean, I saw them at San Diego Zoo, and that was really cool.
Oh, yeah.
I also freaked out because I realized that flamingos are real.
Yeah, they are. They are. I see them in the wild in Florida. It seems bizarre, but yeah, they're not very pink though in real life. Like in zoos, they feed them like dyed shrimp to make them pink.
Oh,
but like in the wild, they're more just kind of a pale white with a slight pinkish tone.
Freaked out. I freaked out when I saw vultures.
Oh.
When I saw like all these animals.
Wow.
'Cause I love
vultures are cool. We got them all over the place. Turkey vultures, you see a ton of times.
I love when they eat too much, they throw up as a defense mechanism. So like if something comes towards them, they'll like vomit to get away. And if they eat so much, when they try to take off, they'll also vomit to lighten the load so they can fly away.
It's so practical,
like,
really.
What the fuck? They're really practical animals.
They are.
I'm
Most
like,
scavengers are, I've found. You know what's another interesting thing? And I've talked to my girlfriend a lot about this because she really likes possums and thinks they're really cute. And they are kind of cute, but like
Australian possums or like opossums?
Well, I mean, I guess it would be so the opossum thing, even though it's spelled opossum, they just pronounce it possum here.
Okay.
And
because I know they look so different.
They are very different appearance. Yeah, so the American possum, and then there's slightly different, sub variations as you go up the coast. But the kind we have in Florida, I don't know exactly what the specific species name is, but they're mean as shit. And I know because I grew up in rural areas, and they're mean as shit. You run into one, they hiss at you, they'll try and attack you. And I actually had one attack me during a stream. I went outside to take a smoke break. This was back when I lived in Jacksonville. And I was just sitting in the dark, and I was in a very swampy neighborhood, so it was like a lot of wildlife. And I was just having a cigarette, and I was talking with Chad on my phone, as I do. And I just got like just rushed by a possum, and I kicked it away from me and like went back inside. And everyone got upset. They're like, "How could you kick it?" I was like, "Are you kidding me?" It was like coming at me.
There's no fucking rabies.
Yeah. Well, you know what I learned? Apparently they can't get rabies, but they're still really aggressive.
Oh.
And they're also like probably bit me and would infect me with something as well. So yeah.
I've got one that's living in my room.
Oh wow.
At the moment, and we fucking can't get it out because we can't find how we.
Oh yeah, they're crafty. They're really crafty.
Yeah, at like midnight, it fucking rolls a rock around in my roof, and I like have to bang on my roof to shut it up because it's right above my fucking bedroom, and I'm like, can you go somewhere else, like over to the bathroom or something where we can't hear you? But it'll
They're
like
such
roll
assholes.
this fucking rock around, and I'm like, you fucking dick. Like
That's why I like all these people that think they're super cute and precious. I'm like, I get this, but have you ever like ran into one in the wild and they were like, no? I'm like, they're not cool. They're very rude.
Have had this happen to me. So, when I was in high school, I was over at my friend's house and we were just like swimming in her pool. And her dog actually came over and had like all fluff in his mouth, like fur. And we were like, what the hell? And he like took us over to this possum. So we grabbed one of the towels and I'm like holding it like on my lap. And all of a sudden it just fucking launches at my face and like scratches my face. And so I fucking just like launched this thing that's just been attacked by a dog. I was like, what
You
the
have to.
fuck?
They're mean. They're aggressive.
You think they're cute.
They're not.
No.
I found that big like delineation is people. We even talked about this earlier. People that have grown up mostly in cities like have this perception of animals that's very different from people that grew up in rural areas.
So they just think they're like domestic pets, and you're like,
Yeah, no, they're
this thing
so
is
not. Yeah, they're,
vicious.
yeah, yes, absolutely.
Is coming to kill you. Like
I've
it
known
wants you
people
dead.
that will see like a little pack of coyotes. They'll be like, "Oh," I'm like, "No, these they would absolutely kill you if they thought they could." Most of the time, coyotes here, they're pretty cowardly, but if there's a pack big enough of them, they'll absolutely try and like tear you apart.
Yeah. The thing that terrified me the most was getting chased by a goanna.
Well, I don't even know what that is. I'm about to look this up.
So goannas like our big lizards, like huge.
Oh,
lizards,
they
like,
are. Wow,
they
like almost this kind of
massive, and
Komodo dragon looking thing.
Yeah, I think
I
they're
see
in the
that.
same like
All
genus.
right,
to
that
be
makes
honest.
sense.
Like,
Okay.
but they have like these really big long claws and
Wow,
like,
they do. Jeez,
they
wow.
just I got chased by one because we were out camping one summer and we came back from swimming at like the creek and this goanna was going through our food and it grabbed the hot dog buns and I like yelled at it and it like locked eyes with me and I just ran. Yeah.
And reptiles
like I
have
said
those
to you
cold,
before,
dead eyes too.
Yeah, there is like shit that will fuck you up before like our deadly spiders or snakes will.
Oh yeah. Our alligators are really like, they mind their own business for the most part, but they like, obviously if you piss them off, they move pretty fast when they want to. And just like the hissing sounds they make when they open their mouth, it just sounds like death when they go like.
Our saltwater crocodiles are fucking huge.
Oh yeah.
Like
Crocodiles are even more dangerous than
and-
alligators by a big margin.
Well, they death roll.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
see you later.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think they're more aggressive too.
Yeah, and they're very territorial. So it's like
Alligators are kind of lazy. They just want to bask in the sun more or less, whereas I think crocodiles are a lot more like hunterly.
they chase
Yeah.
you. Like what the fuck?
Yeah. Our alligators will only chase you if you really frustrate them. Like if you really piss them off. Like you have to try, you have to try to piss off an alligator.
Yeah.
It's wild. It's a wild world. The natural world is so fascinating.
I love snakes.
They're great. Snakes are cool.
Ned's terrified. And I tried to compromise so I could get a pet snake. And he was like, nope. He's like, you get one, it's not allowed in our house. I'm not moving in. If you bring one, I'm moving out. If you bring one home. And I'm like,
Oh, man.
so I kind of convinced him to let me get like a monitor. Like a lizard.
Oh, those are cool. I used to trip and watch videos of monitor lizards. How do you feel about tarantulas?
What did I
Okay.
say about hairy spiders?
Yeah, that's right.
Spiders
That's true.
should not have hair. I'm like, oh,
I always thought they were cool, but they definitely freak me out too.
no.
I think I might get one day, honestly.
Yuck.
I want to just conquer my like fear of tarantulas. Like I'm not terrified of them, but I definitely would be unsettled by them. But I feel like if I had one as a pet, I'd grow to love them, and then that would be like me kind of conquering a demon in a way.
I'm fine with them. It's just like this weird thing that it's
they're
like
big,
an
too.
automatic like reaction to be grossed
And their
out by
legs are
hair.
like as big as fingers, and they're very
that's fine.
hairy.
The
Oh, okay.
hairy bothers me.
They're so hairy.
If
Yeah,
they had
they're
no
so
hair,
hairy.
I'd be like, that's fine.
I wonder if you could shave one. It'd probably be unethical.
a
I'm just
little
curious.
razor.
Now. I'm wondering how that would go down.
A tarantula razor. That's it. I'm investing. I'm investing in this.
Oh,
I'm sure
that'd be
there's
so
a market.
strange. I have a brief anecdote about snakes that I think is interesting. My buddy George, my best friend, he and I have been through thick and thin together. I have, I would say, many acquaintances, but I have very few close friends, and he's the person I've been closest with for the longest time, and so, he's kind of like a to the grave kind of dude, and I fully trust him with everything. And so he's from a really like rural area as well. So like very intimately familiar with wildlife. And, I met him first at Boy Scout camp, and his Boy Scout troop was very rebellious, and very, yeah, they're honestly just badass. They really were, and they were a great bunch of people. And I got to know George through getting to know them, and they would all do these kind of, they would do a lot of pranks in the camp, but they also just get involved in really like wild situations. And one of the things they did once is, for like a couple days, they went around collecting black racers, which are like a non-venomous snake we have in Florida, but it's a really aggressive snake, and they move really quick. And they were collecting them and keeping them in a bag, a big like a burlap sack. And they had like about 25 of them, roughly. You know, I don't know the exact count, but it was at least 25, maybe a little more, maybe like a little less. But and they had a running bet, and whoever could keep their hand in the bag of black racers the longest would collect like the pot, you know, of money that had been bet on it. And of course, when your hand's in the bag with the black racers, they're biting the shit out of you.
You're gonna get bitten.
Yeah, oh, many times. And so he won, and he was, I don't know how many bites he had. It was pretty. His hand was kind of mangled, but like
that's intense.
It was, but
like, we don't have non-venomous snakes small enough to do that with.
Oh, okay.
Like all the like this, yeah. Like we don't. Like even our diamond pythons are fucking massive. Like.
Wow. Yeah. No, we have a ton of tiny ones around. But
yeah, our tiny ones are venomous. So you
okay. Yeah, you got to steer clear of them,
obviously,
of course.
Brown snake, which gets to like 10 foot.
Wow. Wow. Wild.
Yeah, they're badass.
But please, I know I've been like derailing this with these weird snake stories and shit. I love talking about this stuff. I wanna definitely like, you know, get into The Shining here as well, because I feel like
absolutely.
I'm the type of person that derails everything, so I got to be careful.
Oh, me too, because my brain, I can't stay on track.
Me neither.
At all.
Me neither. We both have ADHD, yeah. So this is a perfect storm.
People are gonna be like, "What are you guys talking about?"
But
we're gonna be talking about The Shining. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
So, to kick it off, when was the first time, and what is your first memory of watching The Shining?
So, it was when I was in high school for sure. I want to say like sophomore year, maybe early. No, it was sophomore year, I think, maybe early junior year.
So, for Australian listeners, how old are you in like your sophomore year?
Probably 14 in the first half, 15 in the second. So
yeah.
I think I was probably 15, maybe 16 when I saw The Shining, something like that. And so
that's so late for a horror movie.
Oh yeah, my mom was really. She wouldn't let me play like a lot of the rated M video games or anything violent, and so she was very, very conscious about what kind of content I took in. So I didn't get to watch horror movies or like anything violent or rated R for a really long time. So I was very late to the horror movie scene. I didn't even know I liked horror movies or horror games until like a year ago, honestly.
Oh wow!
And then I dove deep. I knew I liked the aesthetic of it. I just hadn't really seen any of them. So I was very late to the party. I saw The Shining, and then I didn't see really anything else for years. And then I kind of got back into it. I saw The Witch, which I really liked, and Hereditary, which I also really liked.
Hereditary's fantastic.
And Conjuring, I liked Conjuring as well. So yeah, and then I've been loving, you know, horror games. Fully dived into the Resident Evil series, and I've loved that. And so horror narratives in general have become something I've really loved, but it's very recent for me. And so I saw The Shining many years before I even knew I liked horror, but it's because I had heard. It wasn't even so much that I watched Shining because it was a horror movie, but really because I had heard it was just a really good movie, right? And Kubrick directed it, and it is famously just a well-made movie, even if you don't like horror, I think.
Yeah, I feel that way as well. That it's just got that aesthetic that's not. There's no jump scares.
No.
There's nothing that's really like incredibly horrific about it. It's just very like anybody could watch it, really.
Yeah. It's definitely unsettling, and it's like psychologically scary, but it's not, like you said, it's not going to just jump out at you and freak you out all of a sudden. Well, there's like one part maybe with the bathtub.
Oh,
yeah, but for the most part, no.
I love that bit.
Yeah, that was a good one. That definitely one gave me a jump. But yeah, so I think it was at a party I was hosting for, maybe it was my birthday, or like it was a swim team party or something. I was really involved with the swim team at that point in time.
That's so cool. We don't have that stuff here.
Oh, it was. I liked it. It was the first time I'd ever done anything athletic. But we had like some event that I was hosting at my house, and I was like, we're all gonna watch The Shining afterwards. And so we all did, and that was the context of it.
I feel like I watched a lot of horror movies in that way, like parties and being like, let's put Silent Hill on. And for a long time, I couldn't watch horror movies like sober because I was like, oh no, I fucking can't do that. And But I genuinely
okay.
have
Yeah.
been watching horror since like I was under 10. So all my family horror movie fanatics. Well, mainly my grandma and my auntie. And yeah, so we've always watched, like, my grandma likes paranormal and supernatural movies, whereas my auntie just like watches everything, anything and everything. So
at this point, I want to watch everything, and I've seen a lot of it. I think by the time I actually got into horror, I had just been through enough like real life stuff to where horror didn't really scare me, but I loved it. You know what I mean? Like I was never like, oh no, like what if I can't watch this movie? I was like, oh sweet, this is gonna be great. And like I hope it scares the shit out of me. And one game I really like, the horror games too, I almost put like in the same field there because horror games are normally narrative driven. So it's like being in a horror movie, right? And of course the classics like Outlast and Layers of Fear I loved, scared the shit out of me.
I can't play Outlast.
Outlast is really quite scary.
It is like I've had Dead by Daylight on my computer.
Oh, I love Dead by Daylight. I used to be a sweaty killer in Dead by Daylight. I was absolutely ruthless.
I want to play it so bad, and I'm just so scared. Horror games like a whole nother level of immersion for me.
Oh yeah. Well, Dead by Daylight is one of the less scary ones, I will say that.
Yeah, everybody says that.
At first, it'll scare you a few times, but you'll get used to it pretty quick. And it very rapidly goes from being a horror game to being like kind of a sweaty esports game. I'm serious. It gets so like weird and strategic. Yeah.
It'd be cool. I'd be a killer.
Killer is way more fun. Way more fun in my opinion. Yeah.
Because I just can't run away from people. Like that for some reason terrifies me.
Well, if you're into strategy, you'd like Killer too. Killer's all about like mind gaming and resource management in a really cool way. That's what I like about it. I really like the strategy, and plus you get to play as like a slasher killer, you know, which is fun, right? You know, and they have great characters. They have Ghostface in it, who I love playing as Ghostface, and he's sneaky, like he is in the movies. He hides and pops out at people and kills them, which is a great jump scare.
Yeah,
and fun.
I want to play as Ghostface.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, see, that's just like me being a serial
Right.
killer.
It's like a healthy way to kind of honestly, people say video games make people violent. I really think that if anyone had like maybe would have been violent, I think video games give them an outlet for whatever rage they have and keeps them from actually doing it in real life.
Well, they just like go see a therapist because I highly recommend.
Oh, me too. Me too. But I feel like when I was a really pissed off kid, like instead of getting in fights at school, I would just like play a bunch of like video games and I'd kind of, I don't know, like it pacified me. You know what I mean?
It's a much healthier outlet, and everybody sees it as a really detrimental thing to people's mental health, and it's obviously dependent 100% on the person.
Of course.
Yeah, it's individualistic, but everyone seems to categorize it as a, this, I don't know the word, catalyst for violence.
I think it's like the olds that don't understand it, like because they didn't have it. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And they look at it and they're like, "Oh, this is so violent."
Oh, see, I've played heaps of violent video games, and my
Me
grandma
too.
will be like, "Oh, this is interesting."
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Yeah,
my family are just so blasé about a lot of things. Like when it comes to what I consume, because like I think I was watching like war movies at like 6 years old and being like, "Oh, this is fine."
Yeah, definitely.
Because it's all about like your parent guiding you and contextualizing everything for you and being like, "Well, this is actually not what it is. Like this is, this is just manufactured violence. This isn't real."
Well, and I think ultimately human beings, like we can pretend like we're better than our primal nature, but I think every single one of us feels some weird like connection to violence. Just look at content we consume, and it's not like necessarily that we want to do violence, but we like have a fascination with it, and it is kind of part of our weird like hunter-gatherer past.
I think it's more, for me, it's analyzing and understanding different facets of violence and like how that impacts how I look at violence. So watching like video game violence and watching like video violence, I'm able to compare those two like mediums and be like, "Oh, well, this was interesting because, like obviously in this sense it's so much more real." But I know it's not real. But real violence, that would absolutely put me in a state of shock.
Yeah.
Like being confronted with, like real life in my face violence. Oh, yeah, same here.
I was going to say earlier that I think the reason a lot of horror movies and stuff like that didn't really get to me is because I went to a high school that had honestly wasn't that bad, but we did have regular issues with crime, and I had seen the aftermath of actual like murders happen, and then when I moved out on my own, at first, I think I told you a story earlier about like coming home from work and seeing this, body and a lot of gore splattered over the windshield. And then I had just seen enough bodies after a certain point to where it was like, I'm not saying I'm desensitized to it, but it was almost like I had seen the actual scary version of it. And I didn't like it, but I also knew what it was like enough to not be rattled as much, which is maybe a sad thing. A neighborhood I lived in Jacksonville when I was broke and living on my own. When I first started streaming, I lived in that neighborhood. We would have a lot of violence, like shootings pretty regularly around me. And I just remember like the police helicopters being around, and then just like automatic weapons going off down the street, and then just like the coroner vans coming in and shit like that. And I was like, wow, this is heavy stuff.
See, like growing up in Australia, and if you grow up in like our public housing areas, like the most common thing we see is domestic violence and child abuse. And I feel like,
oh yeah,
I would.
To me, that's way darker, honestly, than like gang violence. Gang violence almost makes more sense. It is insidious. To me, like gang violence that I run into it almost makes sense in a weird human primal way, because it's just like this tribal kind of thing, right? It's like, this is violence for territory.
And it's like a protectionism.
Yeah. There's almost more of like, there's more rational reason for it to where it's justifiable, where it's like you said, like domestic violence to me is very insidious. But like people fighting each other over money or territory, it's like, even though I don't approve of it, it's like, I get it, you know? I understand it. Yeah. There's a reason.
There's like a logical thought behind it. And you're like, okay, well, I understand what's causing this to happen. Whereas when you look at domestic violence, you're like, okay, obviously there's a lot of things going on.
To me, it's so much more evil. Whereas a lot of the stuff that I witnessed, which is more gang violence, is more along the lines of survival.
Oh yeah, like I had my mother try to stab me when I was 14 years old. And it's just like, why would a mother do that to their child? Like, I don't understand. Yeah, I was a fucking asshole of a kid. Like, I get that. But it's never an excuse or a reason or a catalyst to call,
right.
Like, to
there's never a reason. It's like it's truly like dark in a very horrible way. Like in a way that's not even the least bit fun. I love dark shit, but like, ugh. Yeah.
No, see, that's one thing I don't joke
Absolutely.
about is like domestic violence or child
same
abuse
here.
or like sexual abuse. They're like three things off limits for me. Like people can joke about it and I'll be like, oh yeah, heaps.
Yeah, I don't fucking like it at all. I mean, you've seen me, you've been in my chat. I have zero tolerance for the bullshit.
Yeah,
I can't stand it because I mean, I think my time in the punk rock scene too, you know, very like not friendly to any kind of abuser. You know, I remember distinctly being at. This actually wasn't a punk show. This was a metal show. And I have a complex relationship with the metal scene because while I like metal music, I was reading an article about this recently, just pointing out how punk is very frequently left-leaning political, but metal often has a dangerously right-leaning tack, especially like black metal, which while I like a lot of black metal sound, the legacy of black metal is not good politically, you know?
No.
And I don't always I like metal musically, but I don't always like the culture of it. Whereas I love the punk culture. But I was actually at a metal show once. I wish I could remember who it was, but I remember seeing some dude try to like grab a woman in a way she didn't like, and I just remember seeing this fucking giant metalhead dude, like fucking, you know, long ass hair, just deck him, like just destroy him, and say like not here, never, like. And just get like his shit kicked in. And I was like, that's good. I like that.
Yeah. Australia actually has a new campaign that started and it's called Don't Be That Guy.
Yeah.
And it's about like calling out that kind of behavior in our music scene. Like, don't be that dude. Like,
exactly.
Like, and everyone's like, why is it like that? Because that sounds sexist. And I was like, well, the most common perpetrators of this kind of behavior are men.
Yeah, it's almost always men.
Right now.
It's almost always fucking men. And not that it always has to be men, but it almost always is. Like, that's kind of how I see it. Like, on Twitch, for example, frequently the victims of, like, what's the word? I guess it would be abuse in terms of, like, dudes being kind of sexually harassing female streamers in chat. It almost always happens to female streamers because, first of all, it's like the power dynamic is men frequently on the power. Also, most of Twitch's user base, I think it's something like, I don't know the percentages, but it's mostly men. Still, I think. And it's changing, but it's still mostly men. And, so they're frequently the perpetrators, not only because they're a dominant part of the platform, but also just because that's how it plays out in most of our society.
Yeah, it's a bit gross, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fucking really pisses me off.
And what I hate is anti-feminists. who are
Oh
like,
my
men's
God.
rights. And I was like, if you're a feminist, you support men's rights.
Disgusting assholes.
Like,
Yeah.
It's equity, you fucking idiot. Like,
I can't
we
stand
want
it.
men to have rights as well. You know, rights that have been taken away because of the patriarchy. Men not
Absolutely.
having rights to their children. Patriarchal, because you know why? They
It's
believe
bullshit.
that only
I've
women
actually
can look
just
after
bought a shirt
children.
from Pussy Riot that they put out. It was a Destroy the Patriarchy t-shirt. I'll send you a little screenshot.
Fuck yeah.
I'm a big fan of the Riot Girl scene in punk.
Yeah, me too.
I had Bikini Kill tickets and the show got canceled because of COVID and I was really sad.
Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah, isn't it?
I'm gonna have to.
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
That'll be like $100
Oh
Australian.
no. I try not to buy. I don't buy clothes too frequently anymore because money. But every now and then I'm like I treat myself to a little
Yeah.
guilty pleasure. in
That's
that.
really cool.
I thought it was great.
All right. So speaking of domestic violence,
Oh yeah.
I feel like that's a very common theme in The Shining.
It is.
Which
It is.
odd. So yeah, we'll go through the movie and stuff. I'll edit some stuff. So
Of course. Look, it is what it is. I'm not worried about it.
yeah, no, don't be worried. Right. So this movie released in Australia in like 1980.
Okay.
So I feel like it was really like a big horror thing here. Because, like, I'm guessing it takes a while for, like, movies to get to Australia, and I know it went nuts here. Like,
Sure.
people were stoked on it. My mum's a huge Stephen King fan, so I know she loved the movie.
Oh, and the
my
book's
mum's
great
not, like,
too.
I haven't read the book.
I read it many, many moons ago. And I remember liking it. Admittedly, I don't remember a ton about it because it was like, it was around the time I saw the movie for the first time.
Yeah. I've got Dr. Sleep here, because I know I have The Shining here somewhere.
I have Dr. Sleep on that shelf, but I've never actually read it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Because I'm actually trying to collect all of this one particular like publication of the Stephen King books so that they all look the same, because I can't have them not all look
No,
the
I
same.
definitely
can't
get
have them
that.
Be different heights.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
It's not going to work for me.
I reorganize my bookshelf once a week, and just to get it like how I like it. I have too many books now, so it overflows. And so I have a few other book stashes around my house. I'll have like books under my coffee table, and I have some books over here, and then what are you gonna do?
I've got like a pile of books on my.
I see
bedside
that. Yeah, I
table.
always have a little pile too. I sometimes have to tuck them away because they'll bother me. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, I get it. But no, you're right.
My room is really small, so I like try to fit it all in, and it just doesn't work out for me. I need to like put bracket shelves up. to put
Oh
my
yeah.
books on.
My greatest dream is just to have a perfectly organizable space to where I can get it just like exactly how I want it. Because of course I've lived in mostly cheap apartments and I can usually make them pretty cool. But like one day I want to live in a space that just has like exactly what I need, and then I'll just have it dialed in and I'll feel like so good about it.
Well, I told Ned that when we move, I want to like a space where I can put a like built-in bookcase. And then just,
Oh
like have it built into the wall, because my brother-in-law's a carpenter, so I just get him to come in
Right
and
on.
put it in for me, and like properly build one into like a wall space.
I guess I have a question. So I think the really interesting thing about The Shining for me, of course, like this whole Jack Torrance gets this job at the Overlook Hotel as a caretaker, right? Or what, groundskeeper, caretaker? Caretaker.
They're like looking after it
Right,
for
right.
winter.
I would honestly love to live in a hotel like that. Like if I had the opportunity to buy an old spooky hotel and just live there, I totally would. Yeah. Oh, I would absolutely do it. I would love it too because I could just get lost in the building. Maybe I'd just like slowly go insane, but I'm not sure I'd be like that upset about it. As long as it was just me, because then
There's a few hotels here like that.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. I need to look into that. Maybe if I ever get a good chunk of money, that's probably what I'm going to do. Buy a creepy hotel, like disconnected from society. And then sometimes people will tell like little stories. They'll be like, oh, there's a guy up there. He's really weird and he lives in the hotel alone. And people hear screams, but like they don't actually hear screams. Of course, people like to make shit up. Yeah.
But that's not actually a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And then occasionally I come into town and everyone's whispering. They're like, that's the guy. That's the guy. Yeah. That's my dream. And I could Twitch IRL stream from the hotel.
yeah.
That would be, that'd be cool. Spooky hotel IRL stream.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody.
I'll be like, oh,
loves
wow.
that.
That's a breakthrough. I'm going to write that down.
I
Yeah,
subscribe.
That's a breakthrough.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
write-
I have to write down things or else I forget them.
Oh yeah, I give it to my Siri.
Oh, see, I'm a big Evernote guy, but that's just as
Oh,
good.
yeah. So when Jack goes to this, the funny thing that I found is that the manager Stuart is like, oh, it's built on a Native American burial ground.
The
And I
old
was
classic.
Like, Stephen King. What book doesn't have a Native American burial ground?
To be fair, I think before this book was written, it wasn't as much of a trope.
Was it?
I don't know. I could be
feel like
wrong.
Stephen King did it in Pet Sematary.
Yeah. I mean, he's done it a few times, but I think like since Stephen King did it, I think Stephen King kind of started it, and then a bunch of other people did it. So like he kind of invented it, and then it became a trope. I could be wrong, but I think that's kind of what it is.
It just feels like a really common trope.
It
in
is.
Stephen
It
King
is.
Stuff. He's like,
it is.
only a Native American burial ground would cause this to happen.
Well, Stephen King writes an insane amount of books, and only some of them are good, right? So I think he probably just ends up reusing themes a lot.
I did really like Needful Things.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of Stephen King books I like, but there's a ton that are like not good. I don't know if you ever look in the list of things he's written, it's insanely long.
I have a couple of books, but Needful Things, was my favorite.
I think he's written like more than 100 books, and so like a lot of them you'll never hear about. Yeah, but then there's tons of good ones, of course, too, right? There's plenty of good ones. I mean, he's definitely a talented writer, but not everything lands, So
I feel like the stuff that he wrote during his really bad like addiction phase were really fucking out there. And then when he was trying to get sober,
terrible. Yeah, that's a common thing. It's really unfortunate. It's like this kind of fear that a lot of artists have, that if they ever like get better mentally, that their art's going to suffer. I think comes from that. Like you see artists that are like hopelessly in a terrible mental space, but they create amazing art, and then they get sober and it kind of sucks. It's like I do think art is tied to sort of an internal darkness. I think it's like a price you pay. I see it as like a price you pay in blood for like true creativity. You like have to have this like internal pain and strife, which sucks. I hate that, but I don't know. It seems that way. It just seems that way.
Or maybe it's like a subconscious like placebo thing that these artists have, that they're like, okay, I'm feeling like I'm struggling now, so only my work will only be good now.
Yeah, that's a good point. Confirmation bias it into existence almost.
Yeah, and then when they're sober, it's like they are like, or sober or, in recovery or whatever, they're like, okay, well now my shit sucks. Yeah. So they're kind of like channeling this whole, my shit sucks, so this shit's gonna suck.
Yeah, you're right. That's probably, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. There's a lot of stuff that I think boils down to that. Also, too, maybe another way it is just like you have to have a release when you're in these painful spots. So you just end up creating a lot more, and it's very genuine. Whereas like when you're recovering, maybe you don't feel like you need to create as much, so you have to force it out, which is like,
and you're just not in a
your heart's not in it.
You're not. Yeah, like you're not in this position where you feel like you are trying to make yourself feel better.
Right, but then you're like already a professional artist or writer, so you're like, I gotta keep going. But
like you're already that person. Like you're fine.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of, I mean, that's definitely I always wonder these ranges of possibility. Of course, I think at some point on one day when we do the podcast, and that'll probably be soon-ish, I want to talk about this postmodern philosophy idea of like the structure of ideas and the structure of like how people come to believe things are true, because it really helped me like reanalyze. I think the big ones for this for me are Derrida and Deleuze, with a little bit of Foucault, but Foucault's like a little more post-structuralism in society, whereas like Deleuze and Derrida are more like ideas and concepts. And just like the idea how we can come to believe that things are true that come from the false human bias premise, and that we almost bring it into being true by our own imperfections and biases. And that we can't recognize that until we like deeply reflect on how this came to exist in the first place.
Yeah, like there has to be so much amount. There has to be an incredible level of like self-reflection, retrospective thinking, and self-awareness to even be able to understand why we think the way that we do about something.
Big time. And not to mention just the human understanding of the mind is so like nascent, Even professional psychologists barely know, anything about our minds.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually had someone try to convince me that psychology doesn't work.
Ah.
Like going to see a psychologist doesn't work. And I'm like, oh, have you been to a psychologist? And they're like, yeah, once.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh.
I definitely think it works. I don't think that they know everything, but I definitely think it works.
No.
From my experience. They know what they're doing, and they can help you. Well, I think really the psychologists, to me, the best psychologists I've had have been the ones that almost act as a sounding board. and hear my thoughts and hold me accountable for my own thoughts. It's not that they're necessarily even introducing something new, but they're helping me reflect.
Yes.
Like they're almost like a guide for me along the process.
Yeah. My therapist is like that.
Yeah.
She'll be like, are you sure you actually feel
Right.
that way? And I'm like, no,
Yeah.
now that you're bringing it up, I'm doubting myself. And I don't think there's anything wrong with self-doubt.
No, me neither. Me neither. I think it's important. I think if you're not a self-doubting, if you don't doubt yourself and you don't call yourself into question, you're likely have a little bit of a dangerous mind. I think that.
And it's not even, it's like more than just that. It's like, where's your
Right,
accountability?
right. I mean, that's.
If you don't doubt yourself, you are 100% sure that what you're doing
Right.
is right. And that is what you have to do. Whenever I make a decision, I have my angel and my devil going,
Oh yeah.
do you want to do that? Or yeah, go do that. And then that's where the accountability comes in, because I know that maybe what I'm doing is not going to turn out the way
Right.
that I want. And then when it doesn't, like, I've had people be like, Kat, what you said about me was nasty. And I'll be like, yeah, I intended that.
Yeah. 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 I wanted to. Yeah. Oh yeah. People will be like, well, that's mean. I'm like, yes, it was supposed to be mean.
Exactly. And trust me, 10 years ago, Catherine was not doing that. I was not doing that. I'd be like, no, you took it the wrong way. No, that's not what I meant at all. Or, I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't know why you got hurt by that. That's your problem. And I'll be like, now it's like, okay, if I hurt someone's feelings, I've got to reevaluate my intention behind why I said what I said.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that. I mean, honestly, like I say to a lot of people that philosophy, like I love it, but it's also kind of ruined my mind because I'm just always questioning everything intensely. And the nature of truth as well. And then just like I always got frustrated by like the Jordan Peterson kids in my classes because they would always just drop, like they would throw around the word objectively a lot. And that always frustrated me because I'm like, how could you? And you're like early human naivete claim to know these objective truths about the universe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's like, even at my age,
But-
I don't know. I'm never going to know.
No one, not even the smartest people know fully,
Yeah.
you know? And that's okay. Like, that's fine. That's the dialectic in motion.
That is on
but
egoism. Not that I have a problem with egos. I don't think there's anything wrong. I'm a big feed your ego person. I know a lot of people aren't, but I am like, feed that ego, because you know why? It is going to help you. It is going to give you confidence. It is going to give you resilience. It is going to confirm anything that you've ever believed, doubted, thought about, have done. And everyone's like, oh no,
I think you need to
ego's
embrace and
bad.
shake hands with your ego
Yeah.
if you want to do anything in life, because you have to.
Don't see it as something you need to suppress, but see it's something you can
Yeah.
nurture and help, and it can be a really positive aspect of your life rather than this thing where it's like starve your ego and feed your whatever. Like, I find that kind of thought process horrible for progress, for people's own mental health. So, yeah. I'll let my super id go. Off you go.
Yeah.
Go. Yes.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I have to also too, because I don't know. To me, the ego is to a degree a shield, right? A shield against those who would undermine you.
absolutely.
You need it to survive, I think.
And that's what I was saying about like confidence and resilience and your ego being that part of you that really helps you to develop even. And like when I did psychology subjects, it was like egoism is bad. And I'm like, is it? Is my ego really the bad dude? No.
I think there's an in between too. Well, because for me, it's also like I know there's a ton of, or like Ayn Rand. I can't stand Ayn Rand, you know, and she's like, her big idea of egoism is what is the foundation of a lot of the hardcore right-wing beliefs in America. So there's like a danger to it, but it's just like it's the way of understanding it. Ayn Rand also believes in just purely the individual subjugating everything else for their own benefit, which is like, I don't think their ego has to be like that. I think Ayn Rand has ruined the ego for everyone else because everyone thinks you have to see the ego like Ayn Rand does, but you could see it in a very different way.
I see that more as narcissism than egoism.
Me too.
And I think that's where the issue lies.
It's just a crafty little like hiding place for their narcissism, I think. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and like after suffering narcissistic abuse, it's horrible.
Oh yeah, I believe it.
It is really horrible.
I've never been. Oh, so the current relationship I'm in is the relationship I've been in for the longest, about maybe 7.5 months now. But I've previously never been in any. The longest relationship I'd ever been in before that was, I think, close to 6 months, and then much shorter. So I'm more or less a solitary individual. And so like I had been in a relationship with a narcissist before, and it was very destructive. But it never got super bad because I got out quick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Look for those red flags.
yeah, well, it gave me a good eye, you know.
Yeah, exactly. You know what to deal with, like how to cope and deal, and yeah, it's
Absolutely. Well, and we were talking about. Oh, go ahead. No.
My narcissistic abuse just taught me how to deal with my own feelings, and like I became a way more self-aware person after suffering through that.
There's this like strange dialogue of life, and I think most people know this. It's like this cliche thing a lot of the toxic positivity people say, but I think it's kind of true that like you need the bad experiences to grow and learn and develop the self.
Yeah.
And it sucks, but like I don't know, pressure makes diamonds, you know, and it does. It's true.
Oh, I like that.
It's true. It's true.
All right, let's talk about this movie.
Of course, please. Well, I think it's like so one thing I wanted to mention, of course, like while we get into the plot and all that, the thing that really compels me about this movie now, watching it again and talking about it again, because you know you've reached out to me this podcast, I would have never thought of it before, but the whole plot of The Shining is kind of equal parts supernatural occurrence and cabin fever, and now in quarantine world, I think a lot of people are starting to tap into this really weird cabin fever. And I've been a weird little isolated hermit for a long time. You know, I spent many years just like in my house for days, weeks, months on end, you know, isolating myself from everyone else and from society. And this was like the version of me that birthed the Twitch channel. But it was obviously like brutal for a long time, but it also allowed me to be super comfortable with myself. And after I got through the initial like tough phase, I became, I think, better off for it. But I know a lot of people now, I think, because they've either been in school and then in work where they've always had a world to be out in and people to be around.
Like a comparison.
Or for the first time dealing with true isolation. Well, not even true isolation, right? Because you can still talk to people through the internet, but like as close to true isolation as someone outside of like, you know.
Is your city shut down at all, or is...
Sort of, like only a little bit. You can still go out and do stuff, but it's a lot of stuff is completely closed, and nothing's open later than I would say the maybe early evening.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same here. Oh, actually, everything's pretty much normal, but we just have a lot of restrictions, like capacity of people in venues, and like you have, like I tried to get a drink last night with my friend, and you have to book even at like local pubs, and I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Because I haven't been out to do that, I didn't even know that was a thing, but okay.
I've only tried to go out like 2 times because occasionally I just feel like I need to. And I think it's good. A lot of people are militantly like, never leave the house. I'm like, well, at this point in quarantine, I think sometimes you have to for your own sanity, you know?
Yeah. That's why I went out for dinner last night, because I was just like, if I don't do something social soon, I'm going to kill a plant.
You're going to go full Jack Torrance on your plants. Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah, it's and that like this is like worst case scenario of quarantine, really. This movie.
Oh yeah.
And honestly, I shouldn't joke about that, because I'm sure that, you know, a lot of violence has increased in homes because of being, you know, locked down.
I know for sure.
And
absolutely,
is, you know, incredibly sad. And actually, with these episode notes, I'm going to chuck in some resources for people to contact for like mental health and any domestic violence stuff for both our countries. So yeah, so
absolutely,
those
right
resources and links will be in the show notes. So the funny thing that I found is that this manager is like telling Jack all this horrible shit that went down in the hotel. You know, that this Grady guy who was the caretaker went nuts, slaughtered his entire family with an axe, and Jack is like, I'll take the job.
Yeah.
Let's do this. And it's just like, what? Like, for me, that's like, ew, like, massive red flag. Like, don't come in. Only because I hate, like, paranormal stuff. I'd be out of there so fucking fast.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
oh, yeah.
No, I'm out.
And then his son has a premonition about it, too. And he's like, you know.
He's like, And Tony's like, at the hotel. I love Tony. I love Tony's voice in this. He's my favorite character in this movie.
Tony is a great character.
And now, because we never really find out who Tony is. Like,
right.
Is he like a ghost, or is he just like, his like, his shining, like his shine voice? Does that make sense? Like,
right. Well, we know that Jack has the shining, so I think we can kind of assume that maybe Danny does as well. And the way that it manifests through Danny is with Tony, his little...
With Tony, yeah. Because then while he's having this like premonition, that's where we see that really cool scene with all like the blood coming in.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that's from The Shining.
Oh, yeah.
And it's honestly, I fucking love that.
The other big Shining one is with the party, like the photo that they zoom in slowly on and you see Jack Torrance in the ballroom with everyone else.
Yeah. It's like,
I love that one.
But I don't think that happened in the book. That was just in the movie.
Was that?
I think Kubrick added that
Okay.
in. Yeah, just to give like some extra contextual, like, is that a possibility kind of thing?
I've seen so many references to that since The Shining.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. See, like, because I watched The Shining, I would have been like 13 or 14, and my auntie was like, you have to watch this movie.
oh yeah.
And then I didn't watch it again. So that's like 15 years between like the first time I watched it and now.
Oh wow.
So it's like I didn't even remember the movie. So when I watched it again, I was like, "What? This happened?"
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was kind of cool. It was kind of like watching it again for the first time.
That's cool. Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah. So the family rock up at the Overlook, and they go through these really cool like that scenic drive as they're going through, and there's like all the panoramic views of like the mountains and stuff. And I was like, "That's so cool."
Oh, it really is.
I wish the rest of the movie was that nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love the like the way this hotel looks is super cool to me. Honestly, like I mean, if I would probably live in a hotel like this. Like I said, I honestly probably would.
Yeah.
I'd be intrigued. My curiosity would get the better of me.
I'd probably end up with like demon scratches on my back while I sleep, and you know, like when you're getting like haunted by a ghost and shit, you end up with scratches and bruises and stuff you never knew about.
Yeah.
That had happened in this hotel. That 100% guarantee happens in this hotel.
Oh, absolutely. Well, in the twins, that one really got me. Of course, the.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Me too. That was unsettling.
Oh, it really was. There's little like subtle references to the Bohemian Grove type of stuff as well in this movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I'll
like with the parties and things like that.
Well, the specific one that I remember is whenever the kind of insanity sequence is kind of unraveling, and he's looking in different rooms and seeing different apparitions, and one of the apparitions is like an older man who's, to me, looks kind of like a politician, and I think that's the idea of the Bohemian Grove reference. He just has that politician look, and he's
Is that
getting
the dog
like
scene?
What's that?
He's getting a blowjob from the dog.
He's getting a blowjob from some weird like creature. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the creature looks up and looks at him. Yeah. That was like a Bohemian Grove thing.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of little coded references to Bohemian Grove in movies, which just kind of fuels the conspiracy.
Yeah. And Kubrick would have been one of those people that would have 100%.
Oh, yeah. Well, he includes little moon landing conspiracy nods, too, in this.
Yeah, because he did the film on, like, faking the moon landing and stuff and caused a riot, almost.
Yeah,
So.
and everyone was, a lot of conspiracy theorists before that were like, Kubrick is the one that faked it. And he's like, oh, that would be funny. What if I was the one that faked it? And then he kind of just, like, wanted to mess with him a little bit.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it, though, actually. He's like, yeah. So Kubrick was like, he had
That's
this,
so
like,
cool.
funny self-aware moments of just, like, giving the conspiracy people stuff to chew on. Intentionally, and I thought that was really clever and fun.
Yeah, that's so cool.
I remember I recently ran into some Twitch streamer. It was a very interesting saga because it was a streamer who had like a bullshit team that I thought I wanted to join when I first started streaming, and I got denied from. And then later on, now I'm like, well, that was a bullshit team. I'm glad I never joined it. And he like started his podcast on Twitch recently. I don't know how I ran across it. I think someone retweeted it. And the first episode, his thing is like, I'm going to talk about conspiracy theories. And his first episode the title was, Is Bohemian Grove Real? I was like, well, yeah, it's real. I mean, it's actually a place, but
like nobody's denying.
Yeah, no one's denying that it's real. Yeah.
Like, that's not what happened at Bohemian Grove?
Right. That's the question.
That's the question.
Yeah.
What happened there?
It just cracked me up.
What went on there? What's still happening there? Like, that's...
Right. Yeah, that cracked me up.
You can always tell when people are doing things for clout because they don't actually...
Exactly. I could tell it was a bullshit conspiracy show. I'm like, he's just trying to tap into the conspiracy like crowd. It's so weak, you know?
I was like, get away from my friends.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you stop that. Get out of here, mainstreamer.
Get out of here. Because I'm not a conspiracy theorist.
No, me neither, really. I mean, I dig into him because I'm fascinated by a lot of times. like the a really intriguing thing to me about conspiracy theories is almost all of them draw from a lot of the same source material, right? Like, and they interpret it different ways, but like they all are drawing from similar things generally of obviously, you know, government plots behind the scenes, which are sometimes real, right? But the thing that gets me about conspiracy theorists is they'll take stuff that is real and then they'll twist it into something that's fully like not what it was. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's like you've stretched it so far from what it could have potentially been interpreted as to creating a whole nother event that's not even possible.
Exactly.
And like I'll read conspiracy theories because I'm always about reading different
Same here.
perspectives.
I'm intrigued by it.
And yeah, like interesting. Like, why not?
Yeah.
It's food for thought.
And of course, you know, governments do stuff behind closed doors. This is true. I mean, MK Ultra was a real thing. Yeah, sure. But then like the way that conspiracy theorists will spin stuff like that is just like, what the fuck, you know? How'd you get to this conclusion?
Like, there is a bunch of Australian conspiracy theorists that think that the government did Port Arthur in order to take away people's guns.
That's a lot of libertarian groups in the U.S. believe stuff like that. And I'd get it if there was an active armed resistance to the government, because there's shit like the U.S. government has done stuff like this. Like, what was it called? There was a instance of, maybe it was how we got involved in World War I, where we sent a boat over to sell. It was loaded with guns we were selling to the UK. And when the U-boat sunk it, we were like, oh my God, an unprovoked attack. But like, we knew they were going to do that. We were trying to get an excuse because we wanted to jump in. And so, you know, they'll do stuff like that. But the thing that like strikes me as so off about people being like, oh, they did this so they can take our guns. I'm like, no one, even in the US where we have guns everywhere and we're supposedly like these hardcore revolutionary, no one is actively resisting the government with guns almost at any point. Even now, when we're seeing the most anti-government sentiment we've ever seen, it's still not happening. Which is why I'm like, no one cares about your fucking guns because you're not doing anything with them.
Where are these Second Amendment writers, right?
I don't know.
When your military is in cities actively arresting people without warrants.
This is what they're supposedly have their guns for, right? Where are they?
Isn't that what your guns are for?
Well, there are some groups that have been doing it. I will say there's a few small factions that have actually been marching at these protests with their like guns. These
good.
And that's like the whole point. There's a group that's a really interesting little like kind of vein to dig into here. Of course, propaganda and disinformation, very real thing, and especially in America, likely everywhere, but we're seeing a ton of it in America right now. Just in regards to a lot of these protests, right? Like the way that the media portrays protesters is very different from what actually happens and vice versa. And so there's a group called, okay, this was a meme. I'm big into anarchist memes and anti-state memes, and I have been for a long time. And so one of the big memes for a while was that there's going to be an American Revolution Part 2 Electric Boogaloo. You know, that's the joke. And so the Boogaloo became this just sort of like word that people would use, and everyone in the anarchist meme and anti-state meme community would just know that that means like they're talking about the insurrection. So there became this group of people called they call themselves the Boogaloo Boys, and the joke was they would dress up in their like fucking party like outfits, like Hawaiian shirts, but they'd also have their guns because it was like a celebratory of like, oh, today's the day we take down the state. Yeah, and they have been coming out and like actually showing up. But here's the thing. They have. The
good thing is that they're showing up.
They are.
That's the thing.
Well, but the way that they've been labeled, in like the perspective of the media has labeled them as a white nationalist group, which is like they aren't. Oh, they were never a white nationalist group. There are obviously some members of this, like it's a broad thing. Like I said, it was just a meme. It was a hashtag. Yeah. So there's anarchists that use it. There's libertarians that use it. There are white nationalists that use it. Yes, but
well, I was gonna say you can be a white nationalist and an anarchist.
Yeah. And so they more or less pick and choose the instances of white nationalists of this to label the whole thing. They do the same thing with like the punk rock scene, you know, and the skinhead punks, like specifically like with skinhead being turned into a white nationalist thing, but initially being just like a style choice that like ska people did. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about? I don't know if you're familiar with this. Ugh. Before skinheads were Nazis, they were just like, it was just like a hardcore punk thing that was just like for fun.
Yeah, no, I know. I have, like, my sister has, like, actual not Nazi skin.
Yeah. The suspenders and, it's like, it's very interesting how quickly it changed.
Where I live, there's a really big punk scene, but there's also a lot of skinhead Nazis.
I mean, they're the real deal. They're around. I see them all the time at punk shows. I hate it, but...
I hate it. I don't really go to, like, proper, like, hardcore.
Yeah. Well, there's always going to be some Nazis at any given hardcore punk show in the big scene, unfortunately.
Yeah, but my actual music scene is more sexist than it is racist.
Okay.
And that's where it's like... The fact that there's still racism is a huge issue.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, I just think these things are fascinating, like the way that, and the sweeping generalizations of any given scene based on small little instances is like the same kind of tool conspiracy theorists use to create like these weird bullshit conclusions. And that's kind of like, I guess my whole point here is just like how quickly information becomes like falsified.
Oh, absolutely. And it's like, I got told the other day that if I don't use fact-checking websites, that I need to pay attention. And I was like, why would I use a fact-checking website when I have a research degree and, like, I'm going to use that before I use a fact-checking
Also, who's
website?
responsible for this fucking fact-checking website exactly? I don't know. Like, whose perspective is this?
Yeah, I'm going to use Google.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go beyond just a fact-checking website. Like, I'm not an idiot.
I always wonder about it. Plus, a lot of people's idea of what is a fact is not true either.
Oh, absolutely. That is definitely subjective.
Absolutely.
I could talk about
Me
this all day.
too. I love this kind of shit. That's like a dangerous thing I run into every time I record a podcast is I always want to go for like 4 hours, but I have to cut it off and I'm like, fuck, like this sucks.
Oh, the good thing is that I can just edit whatever's
See,
us just having general discussion.
I'm an anti. I only edit if someone really wants me to edit out a part because I really like the flow of it. I'm a purist.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a conversational purist. But yours is you have a very focused podcast. I have a very like freeform podcast.
Yeah.
And so I think they both should exist. You know what I mean? Like I think for me a big influence on my podcasting style is Joe Rogan's 3-hour long conversations with whoever, and that's how I like to do it. But I also think like.
Oh, like, I probably won't edit this.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And if someone wants to listen to the whole thing. Because people who do know you know that this is what type of conversation we would probably
Exactly.
have.
And I find that people really appreciate just a rigorous, quality conversation. I every time I get done having a conversation with anybody for any reason, whether it's for a podcast or not, I often just people are like, wow, this is really nice. Like most people don't have long form, like involved discussions on anything. And it's just refreshing.
Yeah.
To like,
yeah, well, my podcast generally goes for like an hour and a half.
Okay.
So
hell yeah. And
and if it goes longer than that, that's totally
hell
fine.
yeah, that's perfect.
So I'm just like export, audition, mash. Let's
Well, you
go.
just reach so many interesting. I think when you have two people in a conversation, these two people have like compatible energies in a discussion sense. Especially if both people have a pretty good brain. I think you just get some really interesting rabbit holes you go down.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of grey matter up here, but some of it works.
Yeah,
So
it occasionally
I like to
aligns
think.
itself in a very interesting way. That's how I feel about
Absolutely.
myself.
And yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Right on.
Yeah, so we're at the Overlook.
Okay. Yes, of course.
They've arrived. The family's there. Danny meets Dick O'Halloran, who I don't know what he does. I think he's the chef.
He
there?
is.
I'm
Yeah,
not
I
too
believe
sure.
he's the chef. Yeah.
Yeah. And we find out that he has The Shining
Mm-hmm.
as well, because they talk to each other telepathically about ice cream. And I'm like, yes, Dick, you're on.
Yeah.
Ice cream, it's like a focal point for any kid. You're gonna have that kid on your team if you give him ice
Yeah.
cream. And so him and Danny get chatting, and they start talking about room 237. How would you 237?
237. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
237. I don't know how like hotel rooms work. Like, is it 440? I don't know.
No, I'm not sure either. I'm honestly I've only been to a hotel once on my own accord, and it was just because I was too tired to like keep driving. I normally just drive for as many hours as I can. I try and pull like 36-hour hauls sometimes on the interstate. I'm terrible at sleeping, so I just can't a lot of people run into the danger of falling asleep behind the wheel, but that's literally impossible for me because falling asleep in a bed for me takes hours, so like falling asleep in any other situation is just like never gonna happen. So
It's not gonna happen anyway. I can sleep with my eyes open.
Oh wow.
So
That's dangerous.
yeah, I know. I've done it at work once or
Oh.
twice. It's a weird, like I have to be really exhausted to like, and it's just some weird thing where my brain just shuts off, but like I'm still like conscious, but I'm still resting, if that makes sense. Like my brain is having a break. Maybe it's just me disassociating.
Maybe. Who knows? I definitely will dissociate pretty hard.
Oh, I love it's my. I do it while driving, and I really that's dangerous.
Well, if you're on I feel like
But
if you're
I lose
on, I don't know what
time.
you have in Australia. We have the interstates here, and it's like you more or less lock in cruise control,
yeah,
and
we
you
have
just go one
freeways.
speed, and you don't move at all because you just stay in one lane for like 300 miles. So you don't really have to.
Oh,
there's
well,
not much actual
between-
driving you have to do there.
yeah.
You know what I mean? You're more or less just staying on the rails.
Between here and work, there's like one road that I just take all the way
Yeah.
home, and it's like maybe 60 to 70 kilometers. So that's like 100 and something
Right.
miles to get to my house. Oh, no, sorry, less miles than that. It's like 30 miles or 40 miles or something.
Yeah.
And I can disassociate and forget get somewhere and be like, oh, fuck, how did I get here?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm here already? Cool. I'm almost home. Sweet.
Oh yeah, I've definitely been
It's
down that road
cool.
before.
And when I told my therapist, I laughed about it, and she's like, "Kat, that's really dangerous. Like, we really need to talk about that." And I was like, "Why? I don't have to focus for 45 minutes."
It's like a
And then
fast forward button for life. Yeah, it's useful.
I just fast forward and I'm home. What do you mean I've got to stop doing it?
Yeah, no, I get it. But no, yeah. So exactly. So wait, so room 237, right? Is that this number
Yeah.
has some significance? I think I can't remember what it is. Like outside of The Shining, like there was a reason why they used the number
Yeah.
237. I wish I could remember what it was.
They actually changed the number from the book.
Oh, okay.
So, because where they filmed it, it was at an actual hotel, and they were like, please don't use this actual number room because nobody will stay in there. So they like changed the room number.
I see.
And so that room number doesn't exist at the actual hotel that they filmed at.
Okay. I get that.
Like the outside of the hotel. So the outside of the hotel that they used is some place, I think in Colorado or maybe Europe. Don't know.
Colorado, I think.
Yeah, but they filmed the inside in Europe.
Okay.
So, but they used, like the outside of the hotel for the, hotel views and whatnot. So they were like, please use a number that doesn't exist, because when people come to our hotel, they're not going to stay in that room because of the movie.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So they changed it, to the book. Like, the book has a different number. Yeah.
Huh.
Fun fact. Fun facts with Kat.
That is a fun fact. Wow.
Yeah, so Danny and Dick are talking, and he's like, oh, Tony told me not to go in room 237.
Right.
And Dick's like, who's Tony? And he's like, the boy that lives in my mouth. What the fuck?
Oh, I love it.
And this is shit like my ASD niece says. And you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
It's kind of spooky, and you're like, yeah.
What? And because she's just really blunt as
Right,
well,
right.
I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, no, definitely know what you're talking about.
So Dick's talking about how some places shine, some don't. This place has a shining. And then he's like kind of explaining that the images and stuff you see aren't real, that they're like stuck in the hotel because of their shine.
Right.
Yeah. And because, Dick and his mum have the shining as well. So that's why they can all talk with their minds.
Right,
And,
right.
which I found really, really cool that, it's not just Danny who has this. Like, there's
No.
other people and illusions that Jack has the shining as well. Obviously,
Right.
because of future events
Of
that
course.
happen in the movie.
But Danny is really the first person to kind of like show it in a way that, because like Jack is shown that he has it by the chef, Dick. And then
Yeah.
Danny is actually almost using it, if that makes sense, with Tony
Yeah.
and his little,
like communicating
Right.
and...
he's implementing
out
it on his
shit.
own accord. Yeah.
Yeah,
Whereas
with-
Jack is almost always a victim of the shining, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's so different, like, not different, but, like, dichotomous in, like, Danny's using it, but Jack's suffering because of it.
Jack's like
Which would explain
being
his
used by it, really.
alcoholism.
Yes.
Yeah, so to explain why he was such a heavy drinker, maybe that's...
To suppress it,
shining-
right?
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
And so he's 5 months sober when he gets to the Overlook because he abused a kid in class, and that's why he lost his job.
Right.
And so we see them fast forward like a month, and at this stage, like, Jack is really suffering with like trying to write, and his mental health's getting bad, and he's just a huge asshole to his wife Wendy. And I just get really pissed off watching these scenes where he's such an asshole.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why are you such a dick? Like, I really didn't like it. Maybe it was casting choice, where I was like, I really didn't like Jack Nicholson in this.
Well, I think he's
character.
supposed to be kind of awful, right? Like Jack Nicholson often plays these roles. He's like Jack Nicholson's really good at playing people that are meant to be hated, you know?
Yeah.
Like
maybe that's
Jack
why he did it
Nicholson
so
in well, yeah, exactly. I mean, he's phenomenal when he's acting out a terrible person, and many. He my last name is Nicholson, so everyone always thinks I'm related.
Oh, really?
To him. Yeah.
Oh, are you related?
I don't know. Maybe.
See, my last name is Benstead, and everyone with the last name Benstead in Australia is basically related to me. So.
Oh, okay.
It's
wow.
not. Oh, well, there's two families. There's one that's not related, and then there's one that is. So.
Okay.
There's not many of
Well,
us.
I was looking through Jack Nicholson's like kind of his movies. The one I was trying to remember, another one where he's obviously very bad is Anger Management.
Oh, yeah.
With Adam Sandler.
Like,
in The Bucket List as well. He's like a kind of despicable
I liked him
person.
in The Bucket List.
I did too, but he's like kind of a shitty guy in the beginning, and he has this like redemption arc, right? But yeah, so he's very frequently cast as like bad people.
And I think like a criticism that I had of this is because of what I've read about Stephen King's feelings about his casting, that you know, Jack is meant to have this slow descent into madness, where when we first meet Jack, he's already borderline in that like spectrum of going crazy, and like with his facial expressions and his like discussion and things like that really allude to that he's already going crazy, whereas in the book he first comes out he is just Jack, you know, like there's no signs of madness already. And Stephen King criticizes Stanley Kubrick for that and having that as a part of like the introduction to Jack as a character. So
okay, that makes sense, because I mean, I definitely recall the book kind of casting the after reading the book after I saw the movie initially, my perception of The Shining was always that it is a slow descent, but I remember I watched it again this time around. I was like, it happened way quicker than I seem to remember it, but it's probably because the book kind of
would have changed your perspective
in my mind.
And okay, you can see this madness unraveling, whereas in this I feel like we're just like thrown into Jack's like descent like straight away, and that it just happens so quickly, where in the book it's such a slow, gradual thing that like engulfs him in a way.
Absolutely.
I haven't read the book.
Wait, allow me a moment. I have to go to the restroom real quick.
No, you're right.
All right, just 1 second.
I might go as I had to run away from Pickles.
Oh, I understand.
Because otherwise she'll come in here and like fuck shit up, and I'll be like, no,
Right.
get out.
Yeah, of course.
We're out of here. You're banned.
Have you played Layers of Fear at any point?
No.
Okay, so Layers of Fear also, well, you start Layers of Fear, well, actually, you know what, this kind of, I don't want to spoil anything. Basically, Layers of Fear is also kind of a slow descent into madness game. And it portrays it very well and very interesting, especially as you unravel the backstory. But so like I love this kind of archetype of a character who is initially stable and maybe even has like a good family life and like a promising career, and then like a sequence of things happen and maybe some supernatural shit happens, maybe not, and then they just slowly like unravel and descend into this just total like almost a monstrous, you know, version of themselves.
Yeah, and I kind of see him already when he's like talking to Wendy like a piece of shit.
Yeah.
That he is already that villain.
Yeah.
Like he's always had the capacity to be that person.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And so I just really didn't. I was just, and I'm sure that is the point of his character.
Yeah.
Is for you to dislike him and to be like,
oh, for sure. And you see his darker nature take over more and more as like paranoia and like morphs his brain.
Yeah, and I think that says a lot about untreated mental illness and, you know, the things that people suffer from when, you know, things don't go okay for them and, you know, their, like, psychological health.
Right.
So.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, and I think it's also interesting. I haven't read Dr. Sleep. I know they recently made Dr. Sleep into a movie, but it's the sequel to this. And I believe Dr. Sleep is... Okay, so... I can't remember what it is, but essentially it's about Danny, I think, and his struggle with The Shining later on.
Yeah.
And I really want to see it because I think it's fascinating. But I just think it's, well, like you said, this undiagnosed mental illness, and how there are certain mental illnesses, and alcoholism for sure is something that often people say is runs in the family, or at least the tendency towards it. Maybe, I don't know how true that is.
I think it's to addiction and like addictive, like leanings, like towards like doing drugs or alcohol and those kinds of things.
Yeah, exactly. See, like
like you're genetically predisposed.
Right. Yeah, I'm fortunate in that I think neither me nor my father have any kind of addictive tendencies. So like I can, I've smoked cigarettes off and on for a long time, but I never feel compelled to.
No, that's habitual.
Yeah. Well, I enjoy it. I love it.
It's a habit.
Yeah. You think?
Well, it's a ritual.
Yeah. Oh, and I love it. Honestly, I've never, I heard someone once tell me, they're like, everyone who smokes cigarettes wants to quit. I was like, no, not me. I kind of like it. Like, I don't know.
Oh, I loved it when I smoked.
Yeah.
But then I also realized that as an asthmatic, it's probably a bad idea.
Oh, true. Yeah. I don't have any issues with like respiratory. Obviously, I know it's going to kill me later on, but no, I don't know. The way I kind of feel about it is like something's going to kill me no matter what.
Oh, and that's my grandma's thought. Like,
it's not like great, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know. There's a billion things out there that can kill you. There's also a billion things out there like in the world that can cause you cancer. Like there's so many carcinogens in our air we breathe. I'm kind of just like
the food we eat, the stuff we drink.
Yeah, I'm kind of just like, well, I feel like there's a billion things I do that are equally as likely to kill me at this point. So I don't know. Like
I drive a car, so
right, and I think I'm just like I'm allowing myself to enjoy this one thing. That's kind of how I feel about it because it brings me joy and it brings me peace.
That's how I feel about soft drink.
How you feel about what?
That's how I feel about Coca-Cola.
Oh, yeah. It's okay to, I don't know. We have a short time here on Earth. Like, I think it's okay to enjoy some things, even if they're not great for you.
Oh, that's been my, like, thought for so long. And it's only been affirmed from dating Ned. So my ex-boyfriend was so controlling about, like, things that I ate and things that I did and people I hung out with. And, like, he'd be like, you can't eat that because it'll make you fat.
Asshole.
And, we can't eat unhealthy. And we're, like, Ned and I are like, let's go get
let's live a little. I don't know. Fuck, you could die tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think he's just really shown me that.
Yeah,
who fucking
honestly,
cares? Like just do whatever you want.
The entire human race could be eradicated by some weird extinction event tomorrow. I don't know. I just don't think it's worth like sweating the small things.
I mean, don't threaten me with a good time.
Yeah.
All right?
Everything will be okay when the worms eat my body, as the Care Bears say. Yeah, I have like a weird, my perception of death. I'm not like, I don't have no desire for death, but I'm also not like deeply afraid of it either. Do you know what I mean? I see it as just like, it's natural progression for me. It's just like, it is what it is. It's an inevitability. I've like dug into this thing called the death positive movement for a while. I discovered it. I discovered it through this dark matter physicist guy that went on Rogan. His name was Sean Carroll. And he just talks about how it's so weird that human beings are so terrified of death because it's just like around us all the time and it's a certainty. We should be like, we should come to terms with it, because it's not going anywhere,
And so you're not going to prevent it from happening.
No.
It is inevitable.
It is one of the only certainties,
Yeah, I decided I want a water burial.
Oh yeah.
Not a water burial, but there's this like technology, right? Where it's a water cremation. Sorry, one of my friends actually wrote an article on CNET about it.
Wow.
And it's so cool. And it's like where you go in like this like vat, I guess, and like all this process, water breaks down all your body.
Oh yeah, that sounds good because I know. I guess one of the major there's a potential issue that cremation can cause like pollutants in the atmosphere. I guess water cremation would kind of avoid that. That's good to know. Because I always figured if I died, I'd want to be cremated. I have no interest in being buried in a coffin. You could either bury my body raw in the dirt so that worms eat me, or cremate me. Either one. I don't want to pollute shit with with this stupid coffin that I don't give a fuck about. I'm dead. Like I don't need it.
No, then I had to pay $2,000.
Yeah. What's the point? That's what I'm like. Don't bother with some expensive funeral shit. Like have a party.
My grandma said the exact same thing.
Put my body wherever you put it. I don't care. It doesn't matter.
She's already paid for her cremation.
Yeah.
She's like basically like just let me be at home for a while after I die.
Oh yeah.
And then because you can wait a certain amount of time and then you call the funeral home and they'll come and pick.
Oh, and you know what I've even learned recently is that funeral homes and like embalming is not necessary, but it's something that came to prominence because of in America because of the Civil War. because there were so many bodies and people wanted to see their relatives
Yeah.
that died. So in order to get the body back to their relatives, they had to embalm them. But then all these people
Yeah.
made their whole business embalming and funeral direction. And after the Civil War, and people didn't need it anymore because they used to take care of their own dead. So they had to manufacture a need for it.
Yeah. How gross is that?
Isn't that weird? Yeah, it's twisted. So the whole funeral industry is based off of a kind of a con.
Yeah, basically. And that's why my grandma was
Yeah.
like, just call the funeral home. They'll come pick me up, cremate me. And I was like, can I push the button? And she's like, what? And I was like, I want to fucking send you in to the flames. And my grandma's like, you're fucked. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, my sister has a 6-year-old daughter, and about 2 years ago, around the same time that Ned and I lost his best friend, my sister's like friend's mum passed away like the same day, and we found out she was having an open coffin funeral. And Lucy, who would have been like 4 at the time, was like, Mum, can I see the body? And my sister was like, no, you're not coming to the funeral to see. And she's like, but I want to see the body.
Yeah, yeah,
And my sister's like, kids aren't allowed at the funeral.
yeah.
Because, like, my sister is non-religious, and so they don't talk about heaven and hell and where you go when you die. You just die and that's it. You go in the ground, that's it. So Lucy's just like, I just want to see what happens, like, before you go in the ground. Like, I want to see what you look like before you go in the ground.
Right, yeah.
And she's always had, like, this fascination. And I think that that's so great for a kid, because there's no allusions to not just dying. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and not... Like, she's more of a death positivist than most of us.
Yeah.
Because she just accepts that death happens and that's it.
Yeah. I think that's ultimately so, like, healthy for human beings. I see so much of, like, human evil as manifestations of these, like, symbolic grabs at immortality.
Yes, absolutely.
And it causes, like, so much, like, hubris and horror that I feel like being more death positive would start to erode away at a lot of that.
This is your fate.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, but this is the only fate that is predetermined for you.
Yeah.
Is that you're going to die.
Absolutely.
That is
It's also the great equalizer. You know? I don't know, like, the classic quote, I think this is even engraved on the Skull and Bones Society chamber, that like what is the difference between the beggar and the king, like, when they're both like bones in the end? And it's just like, I don't know, to me it's almost this interesting little promise that, like, no matter what bullshit goes on in this world, ultimately none of it is significant in the long term. And to me that's beautiful. I don't know, like, some people see it as depressing. I see it as very freeing, because you don't have to worry as much, you know, because it doesn't matter, in a good way.
Can I just say?
Yeah.
Can I just say how ironic that the Skull and Bones Society has
I know,
that
I know,
on their wall
I know.
when they only let elite people of society.
Oh yeah, I know. It's fucking, it's weird. It's weird. It's so bizarre, but I don't know. But that's
It's like they don't even acknowledge paupers. Get the fuck out.
they're full of shit. I mean, they just want to be like, they just want to be esoteric. But I do think it's a good, like, little quote. And
Yeah.
I guess so yeah, the death positive movement's always been one that's really fascinating to me. And I just, in general,
It's great.
I guess I like the idea, even though I'm not religious myself, I studied Japanese philosophy a lot, which brought me into the study of Zen Buddhism. And I found Zen Buddhism to be really fascinating just philosophically. And the idea of the cycle of samsara, I think, is, while it is a religious concept in that regard, actually, interestingly enough, in Japan, I mean, and based on what I studied, the idea of religion is not really like a thing. Like, it's very much a Western concept. It's more just like part of their life.
Yeah.
And it's not seen as like this separate religion. It's just like, oh, that's like the way it is. And so the cycle of samsara, of just like that life is composed of suffering, and, you know, your karmic body goes through various cycles of samsara, eventually maybe freeing itself from these bonds and becoming, you know, attaining nirvana. Regardless of the nirvana thing, the idea of a cycle of samsara and breaking like a karmic chain really appeals to me.
Yeah.
Not because of some like great spirituality of it, just because I think it's a useful way to look at life. That, like, you're going to be presented with a lot of painful and difficult situations, but the idea of thinking of it as like, this is how life is, and I can persevere through it and still affect the world positively, because like this cycle will never stop, but you can escape it, and everyone can escape it, but you have to help others.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like if you're and you know, part of Buddhism is not being selfish,
Right.
and being selfless.
Exactly.
And I know there's obviously circumstances that call for you to be selfish.
For sure.
And not as in like starving other people of something so that you can attain it, but more in a, I know what I need right now and this is what I have to do instead.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And because I studied religion at school, I actually did it for my HSC, and I wasn't even really a particularly religious person, but I like the theory behind it and how each of those religions gave me so many reflection tools.
Yeah.
On how I like to be as a person.
Yeah, absolutely. Same here. That's how I see religion a lot of times. Is I think a lot of religions have lessons to teach people that have no interest in believing in their beliefs, but there are like little coded bits of philosophical wisdom. I think like I try my best to deconstruct religions through a philosophical lens and take kind of methods of interpretation and lessons through that. And then, you know, I don't have to necessarily worry about this greater idea of a God for myself, but there are useful dialogues underneath that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so weird because like my family is just, we're not religious people at all. And my sister's like, my kids aren't old enough to make a decision on whether they believe in God or not, so I just don't talk about it.
Yeah.
So they don't talk about angels taking people away, or that the baby stork and Jesus delivered their baby to them and they're a miracle. Like my sister's like, you came out of my vagina.
Yeah, and it was like it was like totally like
pushed you out,
and it was not like a cute thing either.
No, my sister was like, it was enlightening, it was painful, it was you know, like an
messy
out-of-body
and like
experience.
graphic.
It was messy.
Yeah. It's so weird. People romanticize it, you know. They're like, and I just think that it doesn't do anybody any kind of service whatsoever.
No, my sister is like next level progressive with her kids. Like that, like there's no giving baby nicknames to genitalia, and like my nieces know what sex is.
Yeah.
They know what a penis is. They know that, you know, you have sex to get pregnant. Like, and and people are like, oh, but you're going to traumatize them. And I was like, my nieces are the most like emotionally stable kids.
I feel like that's how you make a well-adjusted kid.
They are so adjusted. Like, they know what they want. They'll tell you if they don't like something. They'll tell you if they don't want to speak to you right now. They'll tell you if you're in their space. If they don't want to hug you, they're going to say, I don't want to hug you right now.
Yeah.
And people think that it's like this weird thing that kids are like that. And I'm like, what? That's normal. That is a normal child right there. Like, get out of that kid's space.
Yeah.
Like, some of our family friends will be like, oh, Lucy won't hug me. And I was like, that's because she doesn't fucking like you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, take the hint.
Yeah, I almost want to hug basically none of my family members. I don't know most of my family really at all. I see them like once in a blue moon, you know, and even then, like now I have very little in common with the vast majority of my family. And I've always felt that like the idea of your family has to be these blood relatives, I think it's kind of arbitrary, and sometimes for people it works, but not always. And I don't think it should have to be this thing.
I mean, like, yeah, my nieces are like, I'm very close with them, but
well, I think for some people it works, and then and sometimes family are the people you're close with, but I feel like sometimes they aren't, and that's okay too. You know, that's kind of where I'm at on it.
It took me until I was 25 to really have a connection with my family, and I think that's because I left my mental health really cared for.
Yeah,
and it wasn't until I was 25 that I took myself to therapy and was like, okay, I've really got to, like, I love my relationship with my family, but, you know, like, I have other people outside of that scope that I would consider family as well.
Same here. Yeah, same here. That's kind of how it is for me.
Yeah. Well, I like my family.
I just, like, I have a small amount of my family members that I know and like, and then there's a ton of people that are, like, technically my family that I couldn't even tell you who they were. Like, if I saw their face in public, I wouldn't recognize them. You know what I mean?
Oh.
And then people will be like, but that's your family member. Don't you love them? I was like, I don't even know them. I don't love them. Like, are you kidding me? Yeah.
I don't know who they are.
I know nothing about them. Yeah.
Like, I had this girl that was a family friend's daughter try to add me on Facebook the other day. And I screenshot it and sent it to my sister, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, I don't know her.
Yeah.
Why does she keep trying to add me on Facebook? Like, go away. So I was like, decline. I don't know you. Like, just because our parents know each other and we knew each other as kids does not mean I owe you acceptance of a friendship request on Facebook. Mind you, a social platform I rarely use anyway.
Yeah, Facebook is awful.
Like, no, go away. I only use it to keep in touch with family.
Oh, okay.
On Messenger.
I recently alienated a lot of family members, I think, because I went on Facebook during like the vast sweeping Black Lives Matter protests, and we just saw like the blatant racism of a lot of family members, and I was really harsh on them about it.
Good on you.
Honestly, fuck
Good.
them. I don't care. Like, if you're gonna be a dickhead racist, like, we're done anyways. So
Yeah, like one of my older cousins is I don't really speak to him because he's like 6 years older than me or whatever.
yeah,
And you know that old guy in Rochester that got pushed over?
yeah.
Or Buffalo.
Yeah, I know what you're
And
talking
he
about.
was like, "Where was the outrage with this?" And I was like, do you not fucking pay attention?
Yeah,
Do you know how much outrage there was because of this?
yeah. There was tons.
Like, if you think there wasn't outrage because A, he's old, and B, he's a human being, like, you're a fucking idiot.
yeah.
And so I deleted him from Facebook.
Good. It's good. It's self care.
Because I was like, you're stupid.
Yeah.
You're dumb. You're out.
Get the fuck out of here. Yeah. I feel like it's good to be fast and loose with the block button and the unfriend button on all social media.
Oh, yeah, I'm just like, I will use it vigorously. I don't care.
Absolutely. I mean, imagine if Wendy had blocked Jack many moons ago.
Oh, wouldn't she be so lucky?
I know.
Defriend. You're out.
Yeah, you're done. You're done. Yeah. I was actually very surprised at the end of The Shining when I first saw it. This is like sort of unrelated to the discussion, but I'm just thinking about it now. Like, I was surprised that Wendy and Danny got away. Like, it seemed.
You know what? Me too.
Yeah.
Me too, because I was like,
They're done, right? It has to be that.
But I mean, like, most movies would go that way.
Right. They would.
Yeah, that they wouldn't have survived. And but this scene where Danny sees the Grady twins, I fucking love it.
Oh yeah.
Not the where they cut to like the murder scene part. That was really unnerving for me. But where they're at the end of the hallway and he like comes around on his tri.
Yeah. Yep.
And I was just like, oh.
The old classic. Yeah.
I was like, kids are terrifying.
They are. I find kids to be quite scary myself.
They're just so scary.
I'm only okay with like friends' kids, I say, because I have my respect for my friends, but like in general, when like a kid's running around in public and they like look at me and they like make a noise at me, I'm just like, ugh, and I get out of there as fast as possible.
My soul.
Yeah.
My fucking soul.
I was in a park the other day and just like I walked past a playground and one kid like escaped and was on the move and their parent was like yelling after them and they're like, grab them. I was like, no, I'm not. No way. I'm never going to touch.
Could
No.
bite me.
Yeah. No way. Like, I don't know you. I just looked the other way and like moved fast. I was like, this is your problem. You know, this is your critter. You're going to deal with this yourself.
You gave birth to this.
Yeah.
You.
Yeah.
Like, I would. Oh, do you know what the funny thing is? I like Luna, because a common trait of ASD is, just being on the move. Just see you later.
Yeah.
I'm out. I'm going. And she used to run away all the time. But I would never ask someone to grab her because that's my job.
Yeah. It was weird to me. I was like, what are you talking about? Stop. No, like, you don't know me. Like, yeah.
You don't know who I am.
Yeah.
And you want me to touch your child?
It was so shocking to me. I was just like, I just pretended like I didn't hear it. I was like, no. This is never going to happen ever for any reason whatsoever. Yeah.
Yeah, no, Luna also like... So whenever we go into a clothing store, the first thing she does is go to the mannequins.
Oh, man.
And she fucking stands there and holds its hand and then asks me to take a photo of her with the mannequin.
That's good. It's kind of spooky, but it's good.
It's so... I've got like 10 photos of her in different clothing stores with mannequins.
Wow.
And there's one store that know her for coming in and getting a photo with their mannequins.
Mannequins are one of those kind of quintessentially spooky things, much like this
They
twins
are.
trope. It's like the twins trope
Yeah.
is a spooky thing. So are mannequins, I feel like.
I think just the like ghost kids trope
Yeah.
is just...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so in this scene, they're kind of like cutting between like them standing there, but then his like shining shows him like their grisly murder scene.
Right.
And there's just like the axe and like the blood and them kind of like distorted. Thank God there's no like body parts anywhere.
Yeah.
Because I feel like watching that happen to kids would be like even more unnerving than that scene in general.
Yeah.
And so at this stage, that's when they're like, "Come play with us, Danny," and just my goosebumps everywhere because I'm like, no, get away from him.
Yeah. And I also just love the camera. I guess it's steady cam kind of thing where it's like the way that they do the camera angles when he's riding the tricycle through the hallways.
Yeah. I like that. I really like watching him ride around on his tricycle.
Yeah.
In in the whole. I don't know why. I was like, I really enjoy this.
It's immersive.
I'd do this.
Yeah.
I want to do.
And the
this.
way that they do the camera shots, you can't see around the corners, so it kind of builds the tension too. It's very good.
And you're just like,
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, that scene with the twins is so iconic that you know it's going to happen eventually.
Right.
And then you're watching him on the tricycle and you're just like,
Oh no. Yeah.
they're coming. They're coming. They're coming. They're coming. That bit's coming up. And yeah, it is really like, bam. That was the only bit where I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
That was spooky. The one that really got me in this movie was the bathroom scene.
Yeah, which happens after this.
Yeah.
Because Danny eventually ends up in room 237.
Right. Because he sees the door open and he's just like, oh.
Yeah, the ball rolls out and he's like, oh, let's go in there. And you're like, no. Yeah. Tony has told you not to go in that room.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, trust Tony. Oh no, Tony tells him to go in the room, I think.
Well, yeah. Who was the person who told him not to was Dick, I guess. Dick. Yeah, the chef. Yeah.
And so he goes in, but I don't think we see I can't remember if we see what happens when he goes in there. Because at that time, Jack has a nightmare.
Yeah.
And Wendy goes in and he's like, oh, I had a dream that I chopped you all to pieces.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh.
Yeah.
You're gonna
Red flag.
You're gonna get.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's when Danny comes in and he has like all the bruises on his neck and Wendy is like, you did this to him. You did this. Because it turns out he's assaulted Danny in the past.
Right.
And that was I think at the start of the movie, Wendy is at the pediatrician and is like, oh, you know, his father, you know, hurt him years ago or something. I can't remember. Something like that happened.
Right.
And so this is when we kind of realize that Jack has the shining because he goes into the bar and
yes,
it's like the old school bartenders there.
Lloyd, I think.
And yeah, Lloyd.
Yeah. And
I love how I wrote, he has a sook about his marriage, completely forgetting that he's the one that fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, you don't get to whinge about that when you're the scumbag.
That's like classic trope, though, and you know, I remember reading an essay about how a lot of, you know, domestic abuse was common in a lot of Scotch-Irish family units because instead of like dealing with the mental illness and problems, like the classic Irish patriarch thing to do is to go to the bar and drink problem away, like complain about your family life and then, you know, continue spiraling into.
It's your wife's problem.
Yeah.
She's the bitch.
Yeah, that's like classic Irish family thing, you know.
Because Jack actually tells Lloyd, you know, once I was angry and I dislocated my son's shoulder.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
yeah,
it's kind of like he's excusing himself.
Yeah. He's like, I was
drunk
angry.
and I was angry.
Yeah, like, what the fuck? Yeah, exactly.
And you're like, no, you don't put your hands on your child.
No, yeah.
And that's when Wendy comes in and she's like, you've got to go to room 237. And I fucking love this scene.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it because he goes in and Jack has this like, he's going into the room and he's got this like fucking creepiest look on his face when he sees the naked woman in the shower.
Yeah. And at first it's like a young woman.
Yeah. And like she approaches him and I'm like, mate, you've got a receding hairline and a maniacal look in your eyes. No woman is approaching you.
Also, like, you know, just the lack of suspicion on his part too, where he's just like how would he have not have known this person was here initially? You know what I mean? Like, and he's just like, oh, okay.
And why isn't she like, get the fuck out of my room?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing in my bathroom? Get out.
His just lack of suspicion is truly
like, but I think that speaks to like this whole descent that he's going, you know, spiraling into.
Of course.
And so they end up making out. And I just love when they show, like, they pan to her back and it's just like all her skin rotting off in patches and I was like,
yeah, there's the dead necrotic flesh sloughing out, fucking
But I think it's great. Because I'm just like, fuck you, Jack, fuck you, because he notices, and that laugh that woman lets out when he's running out of the room is the creepiest thing.
And it becomes this old woman, right? At the same wait, is this the and she's just like all of a sudden morphed into this freakish, rotting, like
corpse.
Yeah.
And she just fucking laughs at him, and I was like, yes, that's karma, Jack. Karma for being a piece of shit.
Yeah.
But he goes back to Wendy and he's like, oh, nothing happened. There's nothing in there. And it's like, you just made out with a dead body.
Yeah.
And no man is going to admit that.
And then he gets to the gold room scene, where it's just like the full
party.
all of the ghosts.
Yeah.
The whole.
And he doesn't even question it.
No.
He's just like, sweet.
He's like he loves it. He's like, oh, this is neat.
I love this party. There's no like questioning where did these people come from.
But they do a really good job in the movie, even though it is a lot more rapid than Descent in the book. I mean, of course, they kind of have to do that, like by virtue of it being a movie, it's somewhat limited. But they very much like as the events slowly escalate, you know, it goes from being slightly weird to being like over the top, like completely off the rails.
Yeah. And I think this is the scene where he's like walking through the hotel and there's all like the different apparitions in the rooms and on his way to the gold room, and we see the politician with the creature giving him a blowjob. And I think that kind of speaks to the level of madness that Jack is going through or like experiencing, because like in a normal situation the door wouldn't be open. And so it's kind of like alluding to this isn't real, because there's lots of circumstances where we can reflect on it and go, okay, if this was real, that wouldn't have happened. Like that door wouldn't be open, or that person wouldn't be there, and things, or that person wouldn't be dressed like that. So they go into he goes in the gold room, there's like all these people dressed like it's the 1920s or something like that, and looks like a big flapper dress up party. Yeah. Excuse me. Which I think looks really cool.
Yeah, it does. I mean, yeah, of course.
Everybody loves a 1920s party, right?
But Delbert Grady is here, the original multi-murderer.
Yeah, the caretaker. And we don't really know it's him until like they collide and they end up in the bathroom, and then Grady says some really fucking racist shit and Jack is just like, oh.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, but in the 80s, would anybody tell them not to say those things? And I thought,
yeah, that's true, because I guess it was pretty normal then, huh?
And I kind of feel like, I have a real big problem with the word even being used. So
yeah.
But I get the context of it, because you know Grady was from a certain era where that would have been appropriate, not appropriate, but acceptable and like normal vernacular. And it's just like,
yeah.
But it makes me cringe hearing a white person say that word now, and I'm like,
oh yeah, big time.
Yuck! Don't say those things. And
oh, absolutely.
So he's like, oh, I'm Grady, blah, blah, blah. And Jack's like, wait, I know you. I know who you're the guy that killed his family with an axe.
Yeah.
And Grady's like, no, I've always been the caretaker. Don't worry. Like, massive level of gaslighting on Jack.
Yeah.
And he's just so like, Jack's just like, oh, all right, cool.
Yeah.
Sweet. But at this time, Grady's like, okay.
Well, Grady feeds his confirmation bias too.
Yeah.
Grady feeds to him that like he's not the bad guy, that he has to fix his wife and child's behavior.
And he's like, you know what you need to do. And he's like, I can do it. I like how, where the heck did this guy come from? This was while I was watching it and didn't realize that he was Grady. So I was like,
right.
Who the heck is this guy?
Yeah. Oh, and one thing I forgot about is like after the chef initially, the Dick Halloran, you know, the chef initially like warns him about, you know, all the shit in the hotel. He leaves for the season.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So he's not there the whole time, even though he's like the other. So yeah. And so I guess the ghost, one of the things the ghost warns him about here is that like Danny's reached out to this person. He's like, oh, Danny's contacted him, and he's like, he's telling him to come back.
Using his shine and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Because he's like telling Jack that Jack has this shine as well, and that Danny is using it for the wrong reasons, and you need to take care of him, and you know what you have to do. And that's when he like goes into like full blown madness. This is the point where it all turns around for the movie.
Yeah.
Like in regards to Jax.
He fully gets unhinged.
Yeah. And I really do enjoy him as Crazy Jack.
Yeah.
Like the scripting choices and like the camera angles that they use.
Oh, he's very convincingly like a psycho murderer kind of character.
Great.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
But then so Wendy,
the performance by Jack Nicholson is extremely convincing.
I just wish they did it a little bit more differently.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, he does a great job, but I mean, like, more in the whole, he could have acted less psychotic at the start.
Yeah.
Like, maniacal, you know, like, in that manic look in his face and whatnot. But Wendy equips herself with a baseball bat, and she's like, I'm gonna get us out of here. I'm gonna knock Jack the fuck out. And she does, and he ends up, like, falling down a hole. Oh, no! I've got it here. I forgot. This is important, this bit. Because she goes into the study where he's been typing, and she finds his work, like, his writing. And all it says is, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy.
Over and over for pages and pages and pages, yeah.
That's what he's been doing for the last month. And it's just like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And...
That's a red flag for sure.
Yeah. I was just like, oh. But he looks so, like, intense when he's working. Because there's a scene where he's like, Wendy, if you come in here and you hear me typing, like, don't come in because it means I'm working. And he's like, now get the fuck out. And I was like, you're not working. That's all you're writing. You're just writing this over and over again. That's not work. That's just control, copy, paste.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, yeah, this is the point where Wendy basically knocks him out and drags him into the, what's the word? Like the storeroom.
Yeah, it's like a pantry.
Pantry, that's
yeah.
I couldn't think of the word. We just call them cupboards here.
Oh, okay, yeah, of course.
Kitchen cupboard.
More or less the same.
And so he's locked in there, and she is like she goes to try and find Jack. Not Jack, Danny, sorry. And at this stage, like, Grady shows up and is like, oh, mate, you really fucked up. Like,
yeah.
I'm really disappointed in your level of not being able to get the job done. And Jack's like, don't worry, I'm gonna go do this shit. I can do it. I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna finish the job. And Grady basically unlocks it and lets him out. And so in this time, Wendy's fallen asleep, and this is like the famous scene of the red rum scene.
Oh yeah, well then this is like this isn't even the first time Danny said red rum, but like this is the first time it gets like kind of revealed, and he's like freaking out about it too. Like, so before he mentions red rum, but now he's like red rum, like over and over again.
And he's like screaming it
at
Wendy.
Yeah.
And he's got like this fucking knife.
Yeah.
And like a finger going, and I'm just like, oh no, kids are terrifying.
They are.
And then he gets the lipstick and he's like written it on the wall.
Yeah.
And then so he's screaming of red rum has woken Wendy up, and she like gets the knife off him, and she's like, what the fuck are you doing? And then she sees the reflection in the bathroom mirror, and it says murder.
Yeah.
And I was just like,
Yeah.
I love it. Because obviously that is like a warning signal, like, hey, you're gonna get killed. Like, wouldn't you? Yeah. And so at this scene, that's where,
you know, the whole backwards red rum thing, I always thought about as like, I never really thought too deeply about it, but recently I kind of, okay, so I mentioned this whole Bohemian Grove tie-in, or like secret society tie-in kind of thing going on. And I don't know if you're familiar with just the idea that in a lot of these little secret, clubs, that supposedly people speak backwards.
I didn't.
Yeah, supposedly. I mean, that's like one of the code languages in a lot of these little underworld, New World Order societies. And then, a lot of conspiracy theorists tie that in. They're like, oh, if you play, certain songs backwards, you hear a whole different message or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it has nothing to do with it. But I also like to think that since, and I think it was just really Kubrick's influence on the story. He likes tying in these little nods to, I mean, Red Rum was in the book, but I like to think that with Kubrick's kind of throwing in a couple other tiny little nods to the secret societies and stuff like that, that it almost has an element of that as well.
Yeah, like links it together and is like, hey, check
this
out.
Exactly. And like Tony is a real person, or like a real person that Danny has access to because of The Shining, and that Tony knows these secrets. Like, so whenever Tony's talking, Tony's saying red rum, and Danny doesn't even know because he's just channeling Tony, right?
Yeah, like a spiritual medium or something like that.
Exactly. So I don't know.
But I love Tony.
Yeah.
He terrifies me.
Yeah, he is truly.
Like the little creaky voice that Denny does. I'm like, oh no. But apparently, while they were filming these films with the actor that plays Denny, they never put any of the scary stuff in, so he never knew he was in a horror film.
Oh, really interesting.
Didn't even know he was in a horror movie.
Wow.
I was like, that's so cool that they did that and protected him from that. But I'm sure they probably do that with a lot of kids that are in horror movies.
I'm sure they do.
Except the kid that they chopped the head off in Hereditary, because they would have had to tell her about that.
Oh, yeah. That surprised me so much. I wasn't expecting that to happen at all. I thought that kid was going to be the main character and then just done.
Too. I was like, what the fuck? I just sat there like...
Wow.
Like, you know the amount of time that the brother's sitting in the car being like, what the fuck? That was me. Like, processing it. I was like...
I think that was a really good device. That was a really good like narrative element that they really do surprise you with that, because you don't think that's coming at all.
It just fucking blew my mind.
Absolutely.
That whole movie blew my mind.
It was excellent. The way it escalates too right at the end is just really great.
And you're just like, what the fuck? But Ari Aster's films do that. Like, if you've seen Midsommar.
I haven't, but I want to soon. It's on Amazon Prime. I need to watch it.
Yeah, it's amazing. I really enjoyed it. A lot of horror movie fans didn't, but I really, really liked it. So this is where Jack, hey, everybody knows this scene because it's Jack, like, chopping through the door.
Here's Johnny. Yeah. Classic scene. Yeah.
And so Wendy has locked her and Danny in the bathroom, and she's kind of, like, let Danny out the window. And, like, the snow has come up to, like banked in up to the second floor. And he just, like, scoots on out. And it's just, like... That'd be so much fun. And
he's running into the hedge maze that they're in earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. So at this time, like, this is where the Wendy, I'm home. And he's like knocking, like, and then there's the here's Johnny bit.
Yeah.
And I actually wrote here that it's like a reference to The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. I never knew that.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah. And I was like, it all makes sense. But I don't know why they put that in there. But... Maybe there's like maybe there was like a skit or like something they did on The Tonight Show with axes. I don't know. Yeah. Or like an axe murderer or something. I don't know.
Who knows? I don't know either. I don't have the context for it. Interesting. But yeah, she repels him with this knife, this aforementioned knife.
Yeah, and she actually... Oh, hold on.
Oh, no, it's totally okay.
I'm having a moment. Okay, I'm back. I was trying to sit cross-legged. So she gets out. I don't know how she gets out.
She like slashes his hand, and he kind of pulls back. And she's like screaming and shit. But I think he pulls back because she slashes him, and he also hears the like Dick come up in his like snowmobile or whatever.
Dick arrive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he goes down to the lobby.
And this whole like journey to the lobby too is also full of all kinds of like hallucinations and like the blood and
he's like storming his way down there, and I'm just like, just that energy that he has while he's walking there. I'm like, ugh, gave me the heebie-jeebies.
Oh yeah.
I don't know why, but it really did. I was just like, I feel really.
And there's like the blood is gushing out of the ceiling in the lobby, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just like everywhere. Yeah.
And like Dick would be able to see that, wouldn't he?
I mean,
or would the hallucinations be individualized?
I feel like it is kind of individualized because Jack's experience of The Shining is very different from Dick's, seemingly, and from Danny's.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm.
Like, even though it has this vulnerability, the psychic vulnerability for all of them, but they all seem to be seeing slightly different things and slightly different, like, tones of thing. Like, the Tony that Danny's tapping into, Tony never appears to Jack at any point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
True.
So maybe they're...
Or to Dick.
So. Yeah, exactly. So it is...
And the twins don't appear
to
anyone but Danny.
Exactly.
And yeah, that makes sense. Maybe they're just selective in who they talk to.
Right. Or that their own mind colors their Shining experience. Right? Since Jack has this tortured...
Absolutely. Or the hotel is?
What's that?
Because it's meant to be like the hotel is the thing with the shine.
Like the hotel is rich in the shine, but these individuals can perceive it, but it's still contained within the context of their own minds. So like within Jack's mind, his shining manifests in this like violent way and this like confirmation way. Like he sees all these things that are provoking him towards his darker, violent tendencies. You know, whereas Dick is like kind of a wholesome shining guy, you know? He's like, I think even in Doctor Sleep, and I haven't seen it, but I think Dick's ghost is in Doctor Sleep.
Oh, that'd be
and even
so
in
cool.
Doctor Sleep, he's like a wholesome, like friendly ghost. So like The Shining is just a sensitivity to me. The way I see it, The Shining is like a sensitivity to the paranormal, the supernatural, like the kind of whatever ethereal realm, but the individual with it still uses it in whatever way is unique to them, or like it uses them, or the way that they access The Shining is subjective.
Yeah. Oh, my sister can see ghosts, but
I believe it. I saw a ghost once at my summer camp. I firmly do believe. My buddies were with me too. We all saw it together. We all kind of agreed that it was definitely a ghost.
That's so cool.
Just sort of like we all saw it at the same time, and we were all like, "Oh my god!" It was we were like, Actually, wait 1 second. I need more caffeine. I can feel a mild tired sneak up.
We should wrap this up because I am starving.
What's that?
It's lunchtime here.
Oh, yeah,
My
yeah.
stomach's grumbling.
I could eat as well, honestly.
Yeah.
That being said, I've very much enjoyed this conversation.
No, me too. I could, honestly, the shit that goes on in my head.
Yeah.
I need a soundboard.
Oh, yeah, me too. That's streaming is an outlet for me in many ways. Like having conversations with chat, I need the outlet. I also it's way easier for me to do things when I'm talking to someone. It's a very strange, like, phenomenon, but a lot of times whenever I'm like working, I'm trying to be on the phone with like a friend.
Nice.
I don't know how to explain it, but
no,
maybe
I get that.
So
Sometimes
I don't know,
I'm
like
on the phone with a friend, or AKA Ned, and I'm working and he's talking, and ADHD is just like.
Yeah. Sometimes I just do like tiny little mundane tasks when I'm talking to someone. It helps me stay focused. It's like a weird thing I have to do, but
no, it's not weird. It's what you got to do. What you got to do.
There's like a little video game that's like an aim trainer. You just shoot targets, and I do that sometimes when I'm talking to someone because it helps my ADHD like stay in line.
Like stabilize it, like
because it's a very simple. There's not much to focus on. I'm just like clicking little dots, but it helps me like I don't know, helps me stabilize exactly.
Oh, I actually have a splitting headache as well, but that's because I've had 2 coffees and nothing to eat. So if I don't eat, I haven't eaten since 8 o'clock last night. So my brain is like, you need to.
Well, please look. I think we've gone into it. You know, I think we could.
We're at the end scene.
Yeah. There we go.
Movie. And so this is where, like, Danny is in the maze, and Wendy is actually walking through the hotel, and she's seeing the ghosts as well, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why is she seeing them, or are they actually manifesting now because of?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I got the idea that like maybe at this point they were just so emboldened, like the ghosts, that they were revealing themselves to even like her who doesn't have the gifts, seemingly. Which I don't think she does have the gift because we've never seen another reason why she would.
Yeah, and there's no actual like allusion to her having the shine at all.
No. So I think it's just like that the hotel is now like, it's almost like it's been, this is what the hotel wanted to happen. Like the hotel wanted Jack to go crazy. The hotel wanted Jack to, spin off the rails. And also him killing Halloran. I've done like a little research on Dr. Sleep, and part of the whole Dr. Sleep plot is there's these like psychic vampires that feed on people with the Shining. And some part of me wonders like that's the fact that Halloran has now been like killed has released this energy into the hotel, which kind of activates it, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Because there's no way you'd ever know it in the context of this movie, but when you look at Dr. Sleep, you realize that there's like sort of an innate energy that these Shining people have, and that like when they're killed, it can be consumed. I don't know, but I don't know if Stephen King knew that when he read it, or if he decided to make that thing afterwards.
When he wrote Dr. Sleep.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows?
He's like, now I've got to write a reason why Wendy could see everyone.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, but that's my thought. That's just like a thought at least.
So, Jack then goes out to find Danny in the maze, and Danny is just way too smart. And so he realizes that his snow tracks are going to lead, like his footsteps in the snow are going to lead Jack to him. So he kind of like walks all over them and then leads them off, but then he like dives into the hedge, and Jack comes through and he's like, oh fuck, well, I don't know where he is. I'm going to keep looking. And it's just like, You didn't think he'd be in the bush?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, my brain would have been like, oh, well, he's gone up, or he's gone across. So
Yeah. Yeah.
he obviously didn't go up.
Sis, you'd love Dead by Daylight. Dead by Daylight's all about tracking survivors and trying to like mind game them. That's what's really interesting about it. Like when you're the killer, you're like looking at them and you're like, which way would you go? You know, and you just predict them. And when you outplay them, it feels so cool.
I'd have to play as the killer. I couldn't not.
It's way more fun.
Have that.
It's way more fun. It's frustrating at times, but when you get it right, you're like, gotcha. Like, you know, like outsmarted.
Maybe I'll just have to play.
Yeah. It's fun. It's fun.
So Jack goes further into the maze, and he he gets lost in there.
He does,
and,
yes.
Like,
well, not only does he get lost, he gets so lost that he freezes to death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because during this time that he's freezing to death, like Danny and Wendy are making their great escape on like the snowmobile thing. And but I love it because I read somewhere, I was reading like all these like deep plot analysis of like, because Kubrick's ending is very different to Stephen King's ending.
Yeah.
Like Jack doesn't freeze to death in the maze.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's allusions to him still being alive in the end of the book.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm actually kind of I'm actually going to look it up because I can't remember.
Yeah, because they were saying that during this time that Jack is freezing to death, he kind of comes out from the power of the hotel.
Yeah.
And he kind of like what's the word? Like comes back to reality and he's like, "Oh shit."
Yeah.
Like I'm going to freeze to death.
Yeah. I think actually in the book he supposedly dies in some like explosion, but it's like maybe he died, maybe he didn't.
Overlooked it burns down.
Yeah.
The hotel burns down. Yeah. And then at the end of so after we see Jack freeze to death, it pans to that picture that we were talking about earlier of all these people together in like from the 1920s, and Jack's like there at this party. And it's kind of like, well, was Jack a ghost?
I was wondering about that, and then I was thinking maybe it's like now that Jack has died at this hotel and gone through this whole hotel's like story, just like Delbert or whatever was now like a waiter in this scene. Like this is what happens to the tortured souls of the hotel. Like they end up in this grand like gold room. You know, he enters the photograph now because he's died at the hotel.
Yeah.
And the hotel has taken possession of him. You know.
Yeah.
The hotel now owns him.
The plan of the hotel anyway.
Yeah.
It's like obviously the hotel is the sinister, like
catalyst or okay,
it wants
for sure.
The souls to be trapped in, and to continue feeding it.
Are you familiar with American Horror Story?
Yes.
So you know, like I love that show first of all, but there's this kind of one of the running themes is they'll have certain locations that trap spirits. You know, like AHS Hotel, Roanoke, and fucking even the new one, 1984. Yeah, Murder House. Yeah, that's like a thing. So I think of this the same way, that you have a hotel in which all these spirits are trapped and they're pissed off because they're ghosts, and
so they want to trap other people there. As, retribution for their own entrapment.
Yeah.
Spirits.
That's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, me too. And because everywhere I read, everyone's like, don't forget that the antagonist is the hotel.
Right.
And I was like, whoa. That's intense.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
When you think about it.
Hell yeah.
Because you normally have like a bad dude or a bad ghost or a bad character, but it's like no, it's an actual physical location that is the bad dude. It was cool.
Right. That is cool.
I really enjoyed it.
Well, hell yeah.
So I normally wrap up the podcast by asking you, what is the last horror movie that you watched? And you can't say The Shining. So.
No, it was It was I actually think it was Green Room probably. If you consider that a horror, and I would say it's kind of a horror movie.
I haven't seen it.
It's actually about punk rock. It's like this punk band is touring, this DIY punk band, and they barely have enough money left, and they're in the tour van, and so they get like one last gig. They have to book one last gig to get home, and some guy they meet's like, oh, my cousin like knows this venue out in the middle of nowhere. It's like halfway between your destination and the next. He's like, you can make some quick money and keep going. Well, and they go to the venue, and it's like this hardcore venue in the middle of nowhere. There's tons of punks everywhere. And they're like in the venue, and they realize that it's like a Nazi punk hardcore venue.
Oh.
And they end up basically, not to spoil the whole thing, but more or less like they get trapped in it because of some shit that goes down, and it just becomes this horrifying, like they're trying to escape while these Nazis are trying to kill them. Yeah. And it's like a horror movie, but the reason well, it was good. It was a good movie not only because it had to do with punk rock, but also because it was a horror movie that could very much actually happen. You know, like
yeah, those are the ones that scare me the most.
Yeah, and those venues do exist.
Yeah,
they are out there, and yeah, so
scary.
That's probably the last one I saw. Yeah, and before that it was Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Ah, excellent movie.
And then I play a lot of horror games as well. I think the last horror game I dived into in a deep way was Soma.
Oh, I have Soma downloaded on my desktop, and I'm just like, no.
It's good. It's very psychological, and cool.
I have a mosquito in my room. It's
it makes you
think.
Day.
What are you doing in here? You're a nighttime bug.
I don't know. They're rude. But yeah, they're that's my whole thing.
Cool. Well, I really do love the fact that I got to chat with you about everything, life, existentialism, and The Shining.
Yeah. No, I very much enjoy it. I very much enjoy it.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Can you please tell us where we can find you?
Yeah, so Major Grunge, all one word on basically everything. Major Grunge Twitter, Major Grunge on Instagram, Twitch, which is my main anchor of content, sort of the main pillar. Active in my Discord as well, which you can find the Discord links on like everything. And my big project other than Twitch is my podcast, which is called Grunge versus All of Reality, and it's on everything. So you can just type that in.
Listening to it. So
Thank you. I'll be releasing another episode tomorrow.
Fun. Oh, cool. Who with?
George Clooney Cream.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. So, and then after that, it's with one of my friends, Carreros, and then I still need to record some more. So, yeah, I got to schedule some more guests.